The American election has always attracted the world's attention for many decades. In the aftermath of the shocking 2024 election result, for this episode, we will dive into a niche but highly controversial movie genre, political satire. The three movies that are up for discussion today are the 2006 cult classic Idiocracy, 2017 comedy action The Death of Stalin, and the 2019 Oscar-winning drama Jojo Rabbit. Let's see if they are just products of great imaginations or the scary reflections of reality.
Beings?
Welcome back to MovieBeings podcast. I'm Darren.
I'm Tim.
And we are joined in the studio today by a very special guest, Mr. Leon Kuhlmann, a
Hello.
PR specialist and a fellow movie lover. Welcome, Leon.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
We are super excited to have Leon in today. And warm-up question. What do you think about the movie genre that we selected for today's discussion? Political satire.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I feel like it's very hit or miss. My main critique of a lot of films that I watch probably in this era is like there's that sledgehammer subtlety, and I think it takes it's such a fine line to walk between like, oh, this is a really poignant, like good message, and like the first 10 minutes being like, I get it. Like I get it, and now I'm annoyed at how in my face this is. It's a very hard line to walk.
Definitely. I would agree with that.
I think Tim and I, we don't watch this kind of genre quite a lot.
Yeah, 'cause I would even say it's not really a big movie genre, really. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't, like, I remember when I was looking up movies for this and I'm like, oh, there's not really that many that I would like. I'm like, oh, I know this movie and this movie. Because I knew of like Jojo and like The Death of Stalin, but never watched them before. Because I was like, it's always hard to watch like a political satire movie to be like you said, is it going to be like on the nose or is it going to be like, okay, we get what you're doing. This is a bit much. I can't really watch this. Because I think the first, like, is it We Look Up or Stand Up, the Netflix one, where it's like very much, it's like sometimes really good, but much on the nose. It's very much of the time. Because I think it was during COVID and it was like very much of like the Donald Trump kind of deal. They have like the president. It's like, I'm going to just do what I want. I don't care what you guys are doing. And it's very much like, oh, okay, we get what you're doing here. It's not like, I thought it was funny, but it's like not subtle at all.
Yeah. I feel like the problem is with this genre, I think, is people limit it to like, you know, these films we watch are definitely like political satire films. Like they're like big in front, but like every film kind of is. Like no film's not based on something or doesn't have some idea. I think it's always that, because there's that big mantra right now that people were very against, like, oh, this film's too political, and it's like, have you seen Star Wars? Have you seen like any? Because all
even
films,
Star Wars is a good one because a lot of people like the old Star Wars were political, and I'm like, bro, it's like an empire taking over the universe and like rebels fighting back. I'm like, that's pretty political.
even like the prequels, like the first Star Wars, I think George Lucas has openly come out and said
they're so political. They're literally sitting in an office arguing with each other.
Yeah, the whole thing is just like political democracy. I think he was like, it's based on the Cuban Missile Crisis or something like that. Like he's come out and been like, yeah, all of my films are political, but there's always this mantra of like, oh, it's too political.
It's more like back in my day. And it's like, bro, okay. I think you just...
Yeah, not every film was Die Hard, where it literally is just big building blow up.
Like, I do think it has like a play, but maybe not as much. Because I do think even George Lucas came out and be like, it's like influenced by like that kind of like literal war.
Yeah.
Like, I think he even mentioned Vietnam War as like some of his like influence and stuff. So it's like... That's like a good example, but like there's some that are maybe not as like full on, and some that are like literally, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's actually harder to find a film that's not like, you know. I think you could put like maybe like John Wick or like those pure action films. Where it's just like, oh, here's like a big ballet of sound and noise, but like any film you watch has political things.
My favorite one is Fast and Furious, very much on the car politics.
Very.
And shooting a rocket and flying out a window is very political.
That has a really beautiful political message of family.
It's true. It's all about family.
Yeah. Very important to traditional values.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was also curious about like the political satire movies in terms of the marketing as well, because these movies are not easy to market.
That's the hard thing as well, right? Because because even like I would even say in the last like 10 years, it's very much like toxic. It's like toxic politically. Like it's not very much like, oh, we just kind of disagree. It's very much like we hate each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, oh, I disagree with you, but I can see your points. It's very much, you're a bad guy, you're terrible. So that's why I think it's harder now to be like, oh, here's a political movie. And it's like, oh, no, that's attacking me personally. And it's like,
Yeah, they
just
always
have a laugh at it and move on, kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of go behind because I mean, two of the ones we talk about today, like very much, you fall into the category. It's like either it's a historical epic or it's a comedy, or it's like a biopic. You kind of like you preface it with one big thing to cover it. Because how do you even advertise? How do you make a trailer for political satire?
Yeah,
like really,
Yeah.
it's a weird, but like making a trailer for this is a biopic about Trump. Like that's a thing that you can do.
Like one of the trailers that I remember is the interview when they James Franco and Seth Rogen. Like, I think that when that trailer came out, it just broke the internet for like a short while.
Yeah, because they're like,
No, it broke the internet because North Korea hacked into
yeah.
secure service to delete the film. I was talking about it. I went to go watch the film. I was like, you honestly could have done nothing and that would have been better. This film sucks.
yeah, I do remember watching it, but I don't remember anything about it.
No.
I remember a few things about it and being like, wow, this is a bit racist.
Well, there you go. Coming from James Franco, so
Yeah.
he's the most upstanding citizen, right?
Yeah.
Never done anything bad.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of films recently, hasn't he?
Oh, it's because he's coming back. Because even Seth
Is
Rogen,
he?
yeah, he's making a comeback, if you can say that. Because Seth Rogen even came out and said, "Yeah, I'm not friends with him anymore."
Oh, that's right.
Because there was like they asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not really friends anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of a big saying.
Wow.
If like your best friend's kind of not friends with you anymore." Some of the shit they say is probably true.
I have no idea what happened there. I just watched a podcast the other day, and they did this exact joke. And they were
like,
kind of
he's not a bad.
they were like,
So
sicko,
when- it was like
and I was like, what happened?
when the Me Too movement came out. He was kind of like a big target of that. That's why he kind of stepped back from like the media and stuff,
Yeah.
because there's lots of attacks against him, and he kind of just like vanished, kind of like, I'm just going to sit out of this and then come back a bit later when everyone's moved on from it. But yeah, a lot of like sexual harassment and stuff like that. So not good stuff.
Yeah, it's horrible they say moved on, but it's kind of everyone's
Well,
like,
that's how it always
done.
works.
That's done.
Or they just don't care.
Yeah, we figured it out.
Or
They
like,
didn't.
just like Donald Trump, they just don't care. He could literally do anything and they don't care. Anyway, should we jump into the first movie?
I think today's episode is going to be great.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot to talk about.
If you like yapping,
Yeah, here we
get
go.
ready.
That's all good. And normally we would go through the movies from accordingly to their release dates, but I think today we can do a bit backwards.
More
We can start with-
historically, right?
Yeah.
In the years they kind of are based on.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think that today we can do the newest movie first, and then we can go back in time and visit
And
like
then kind
the cult
of
classic.
send forward in time, technically. at the
Forward
end.
in time.
Yeah.
You are not wrong,
Yeah.
sir. Like the year 2500.
Yeah, 505
Actually.
actually.
My apologies.
Yeah.
Ruined.
He stares at that number 8 times. Oh God.
Anyway.
Sorry, I'll wait till that film.
Yeah. So let's start with the Oscar-winning movie Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi, and he starred in it as well. And I think there's a point of conversation we wanted to bring up, which is the budget and the box office of the movies. So this movie was made on a budget of $14 million.
Wow.
And the box office is $93.5 million. So based on the recipe, it's a successful movie. But I think, Leon, you brought up a point of explaining what exactly the box office means and
it's
the budget.
I don't, as we go on with the other one, because I know Jojo, like based off of the conversation around it, was quite successful. Like at the time, like that was huge. But there's generally a rule where it's like, however much you spent on the movie, this isn't hard and fast. I would say for Jojo, it's probably actually more than this because it was such a small budget. But you take the budget and times it by 2, and that's what the marketing will be. Because, because when you say 14 million, that generally only includes the cost of the production of the film. And then you have to imagine like they've made their film, and then you go give it to like a marketing department, and then they have to make their own film, which is like the YouTube ads, the shorts, the video, the infographics, the posters, the billboards. Like they make their whole film separate, and so it's like you've got these 2 industries working completely separately that are going on at the same time. So, but I think for Jojo Rabbit even more, because Taika Waititi always works on very small budgets, which I'm always impressed by. He's great on a small budget, but I feel like because that was advertised a lot, this might be.
I do remember it a lot.
Yeah, so I have a feeling it's probably. I think it might have been like 3 times even the budget could have been the marketing, but still broke even. Well, it cleared even.
But it's very difficult to find the actual budget for movies, right? Because they only release the numbers after the box office.
Because I'm sure the movie studio releases their end.
Yeah.
And then like the marketing and stuff's probably all over
No,
the
they
joint,
do
so they
not.
probably don't really
They do not
track
watch that.
it.
It's got even harder recently with streaming because like I think they're thinking they're very close to introducing laws, making it so that they have to release the accurate numbers, because they'll just say the money, but the money could be anything. They'll be like, oh, this this Netflix original made this much, but it's like, did you just put all the subscribers you have together and say that was how much money that? Or like viewership, they're like, people aren't sure if Netflix counts viewers. Like, like when you're scrolling through and it gives you that 5-second preview. People think that they include that in the numbers of views, and you're like, what?
Yeah, because you just want to see what it is if you've never heard of it.
Yeah. So it's getting harder and harder, but it's also getting more and more expensive. So this came out pre-time. I think marketing now everything's getting more and more expensive.
So thank you for that. And I found out quite a few interesting points about the actors in this movie. So but before we get into that, maybe Tim, if you want to give us a quick synopsis.
Synopsis for this.
A little, I can't wait.
A little German boy
yes.
that loves Hitler. And his whole life is like trying to be the best Nazi he can be. And then kind of goes through life experiencing like the end of the World War II. It's like, is it 45, 1945? It's like at the end. It's literally like at the end of the war, and kind of showing Germany from that side and his kind of like fight through it.
Yeah. And
then finding out what his mother does.
Yeah.
And then like dealing with that. So there's a lot of struggle for his character of like trying to be the perfect Nazi. And it's always fought against, and where he goes from there.
Yeah, and I think that is a very interesting point of view for the main character. Usually, the main character is like the good person, right?
Yeah.
But right in the beginning, it's like, yep, he loves Nazi.
Yeah.
And then we have to go through the whole journey of him unlearning the hate.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very interesting. And I can believe that the actor in this movie, he was very young as well. So Roman Davis. And what do you think about his acting in this movie?
He's amazing. I think Taika's like 3 for 3 for like child actor, because it's this Hunt for the Wilder People, and there is another one that I can't remember.
Yeah,
but he's a great. He must be a good director for child actors, because I feel like from what I've heard from him, he's like very fun on set. He's very open. Which I'm like, good. Any child actor in Hollywood, I'm like, protect them.
Try to make it a bit easier for them, rather than trying to make it force it too much. Because I think he does a great job. Because there's a lot of like kids in this movie, and especially like dealing with something like the Nazis as well.
Yeah.
Like trying to because that's what I remember. I'm like, oh, how's this is going to come across? Yeah. But I think it does a great job of like not like dealing with serious stuff, but very light. Like it doesn't like there's a lot of stuff that happens where you're like, oh. But then it like doesn't feel too bad, because you're like through the eyes of a child. It's like, oh, because even early on he goes to the camp. What do they call the camps again? They're little indoctrination camps for the kids.
Yeah. It's like this. It's like the super Nazi maker camp or something. It's something. I think no one has the word super in it.
Yeah, but at the end of the war, they were struggling that much for manpower. They're like, oh, we're getting the kids in the fight. So they're like brainwashing them early to be ready to fight for the homeland.
Yeah.
But early on, he has to like kill a rabbit.
Yes.
Hence the name. And the boy's like, you're going to be like a weakling and not kill it? And he like tries to set the rabbit free, and then he like gets it and murders it. And then he like runs off because they like, it's like a big moment, kind of like, oh, he's not really that sold on the whole idea, because he's not willing to do that small. It's not a small thing for a child to like to try to kill an animal.
Yeah. That's also my, like, I don't know what it is about like kid to teenage actors who are like acting as evil. God, I hate them. Like those teenagers
that's what they want, right?
Kill it, I'm stepping your boot. Like there is something like intrinsically like, because like a kid is like so open to anything, and I think it reflects the time of it. But like when a kid is told to be evil and like hunt down these people and perform these horrible acts, they're so receptive to it. They will be the most evil you've ever seen. Because it's like this time where it's like, yeah, good. They're encouraged and learn. Because like, the adults in that time, happens over the past 5-10 years. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of agree with it, but I haven't grown up in this thing. Like I've been indoctrinated, but I'm 35. Like I already have these previous experiences. These kids have grown up in a time
that's why
where
they like the young kids for that stuff. Yeah, it's easier to change their mind.
Yeah, they're told
But I also think it does
kill.
a good job where they still feel like kids, right? It doesn't feel like, oh, he's just like an evil person. It is like what a kid would kind of do in that situation. Kind of like, that's how they would bully them, even though it's like they're doing like this horrible thing, but they're just bullying him to do it, right?
Yeah.
And even when they give him the name, because they call him the Jojo Rabbit, because he's running off in fear. Yeah. And then he has his little intimate conversation with Adolf Hitler in the forest.
Yep.
Also, funnily enough, this isn't the first film set around World War II where I've seen where like killing a rabbit is a thing. Because I swear this might be like, it's like an old film I watched in German class, and it's called like a Marx or like I know the main character's name is Marx and I can't remember the name of it. I will track this down eventually because I watched it in German class one day. I didn't ask the title and it's in my brain. But like the guy's dad comes back from the war and they're like kind of poor and he's like got this lovely little rabbit and then his dad just kills the rabbit, makes stew and doesn't tell the kid until he's like halfway through the meal. Yeah. And when I saw that rabbit, I was like, what if someone's going to eat that rabbit? Yeah. I was like,
I will say, rabbit does taste really good though.
Yes. Both coming from the hospitality industry. Yes, I agree. What do you think about the character of Jojo? So we talked about the acting, and throughout the movie, he has a lot of relationships with different characters. His best friend, his mother, played by Scarlett Johansson, and of course the Jewish girl. And I found out that this Jewish girl, so her name is Thomasine Mackenzie, and she came from a very affluent family. So she's the granddaughter of Kate Harcourt and Gordon Harcourt. I'm not sure if if the last name sounds familiar, but they founded the Harcourt Real Estate Company in Tasmania.
Wow. Australia's own.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So let's talk about the relationship between Jojo and the Jewish girl. I don't remember her name. I don't think her name was ever mentioned.
No, it's Elsa. I think.
Elsa.
Yeah, it's Elsa because my sister's name.
Well, there you go. Well, then you
go.
probably would remember.
Yeah, I remember because every time he I think when he gets closer with her and like running to her attic, he goes, Elsa. But I always thought it was because I know his his sister that passed away is Ingalls.
Yeah.
And I kept being like, I was like, oh no, it's not Ingalls, that's his sister.
So I think the first time that he found out about Elsa was by accident. So he was at home one day
alone,
and then he just went into like, how did he find out about Elsa?
I can't remember if he was cooking or something, but he heard noises upstairs.
Yeah,
and he went to check to see if it was like a ghost or something.
Yeah. I think it was also like post recovery, and I think for his mum, I think like she was still out, and I think it was maybe his like first day on the job at that like little youth Nazi office.
This is after he got blown up as well.
So he got because I think he was at the camps, and then in my like in universe thing, it's probably like he's now working at office. He finishes before his mum finishes her stuff, and she hasn't gotten used to that, and Elsa obviously hasn't gotten used to that because before it's like I can be out during the day, but now it's like you have to be inside all the time.
They didn't even really say what his mother did, but she was like leaving propaganda for the Germans to rise up against the Reich, essentially.
Yeah.
That I don't know if this is skipping too far ahead. That was a breakneck moment.
That scene. But
wow, that was an unintended pun.
Yeah. Before we get like straight to like the end of that, but I do like you're saying the relationships all like bode well because a lot of them aren't as sold on the Nazi regime apart from this kid. Like even his best friend's like, he's like helps him along. He's very friendly. He's very nice. Yeah. But he's not like that sold on it. He's kind of just doing what he's told.
I think it's Elliot. I love that.
Yeah.
Also, actually, that's my brother's name.
There you go.
There you go.
Whoa, that's weird.
So your whole family is in.
I was about to say that was actually. I'm now realizing I did not make that connection until right now. That's very strange.
But I do think the relationships like bounce off well with his kind of beliefs early on, right? Like his mother doesn't really challenge him on it, but she tries to be like still nice and show him that like to be a good human, rather than to like just believe, what he's shown, by all the propaganda and stuff. Because that's what after the accident, he goes around town putting up propaganda for the Nazis, and he believes it wholeheartedly. Like he's got it all in his room and stuff. Yeah. So it's hard because he like later on when they're like trying to find out where his mother is because they ask, where is her mother? And she's like, she's not here. Like, because he doesn't know what she's doing.
Yeah. And that it's kind of like implied that, maybe he gave the tip off.
Well, that's what I don't know if he thought of it, but I think they were onto him because that's why they went to barge into his house later on. The secret police come in to like figure out what's going on. I don't think it was to look for the Jewish girl. I think it was to look for if the mother had any of the other.
Yeah.
I think it was for the mother.
Her propaganda.
It's my head canon. I feel like he's coming around like, she's not around that much because I have a feeling it was that thing of like, at the time in Germany, what would a woman be doing?
Well, that's what I mean as well. Like, especially like we find later in the camp, the late Rebel Wilson's character is literally like, the girls are just here to make kids. And she's like, I've already had 12 little German kids.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so for the mother, I feel like him being like, she's not around that much is instant. Like that, in that era is enough to be like, okay.
That's enough to be like, they're up to something.
But he's a kid as well. That could have been just an innocent statement.
Yeah, that's what I mean. To him, it didn't mean too much, but it probably meant more to them.
Because they give that look and then directly after I'm like, that. Yeah. In that time where like, your neighbor could be like, I think they're a communist. And it's like, well, we'll kill them, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's in that Stephen Merchant. I know him as a good British comedian, the really tall guy.
Oh, I love Stephen Merchant.
He's great in it.
And
even when the Jewish girl comes out and pretends to be his dead
scene
sister,
is
and that's
so
brutal
good.
as well.
And
they've got that book. They've been like he's been writing on like the Jewish book.
Everything's like kill Nathaniel.
Kill Nathaniel.
He's jealous.
Because he's jealous of her boyfriend.
Yes.
I really thought they were gonna she was gonna that was gonna be the moment towards the end of the film where it's like, no, I don't like you, and it's like that's the breakaway part. But then they just never really mention it.
No, but I think it's like all of those relationships kind of build him to like break apart from being like a Nazi, right? Because it's all easy when it's all going well for the Nazis, right? But when it's falling apart, and you can kind of see all the cracks and all their beliefs and stuff. So it's like, it's very important, all the relationships, like his mother. And I think like obviously the end for the mother's story when she's there hanging and you can just see the shoes and stuff.
That is heart-wrenching.
And it's so like touching when he like ties her shoelaces up again at the end. Like it's like, oh, so brutal. I'm like, oh god,
horrible.
This has got to be the point for him to be like, okay, this can't be good anymore.
It's also like that little cute thing where it's like, because he does the laces straight away. It's like, did he always just kind of know? He just liked his mum doing it.
Let his mum do it.
Maybe. And I think there are a lot of the conflicts that are personalized in this movie. So I think the central part of this movie is the relationship between Jojo and Elsa. So he's the personalization of the Nazi regime, and her is just like fighting back this ideal. And I think this is a central point. I think his mom is basically his moral compass. Like, you need to care about the good things. You need to do the right things.
But she follows through with them as well. She's not, just there to say them. She does a lot of it, right? She is a good person.
Yeah. I think the point where his mom got hung, I think that's the turning point for his character in terms of the maturity. So he needs to become the man of the house. And just like you said, he realized that, what I'm believing in has killed my mom. So I think he needed to make that change. So I want to touch on quickly about his relationship with his mom, because Scarlett Johansson plays the role
she's like the biggest
very well in this
name
movie.
in the film, right? Like she would be the draw if there was going to be a draw. It's like, oh, where's the big actor? Scarlett Johansson, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So it's like, they're going to see it if they're going to see it for her, and she's not in it like terribly long, because she kind of just after halfway through when she's like her character's finished.
Yes.
And even before that, she's not like the main focus, right? Either.
Yes. And I think for me, the best scene that she did in this movie is when they were sitting at the lake, and then she taught him the importance of dancing. Because only 3 people dance. And I didn't really understand the meaning of that sentence because, they are free. But I think what she meant for him is like free of the ideal that he believes in.
Yeah. I also like, there's one point that I find a little bit awkward with her is that where she pretends to be the dad.
I actually really like that scene.
I can see I'm such
because I thought it's just like
cynical guy.
He's acting up, he's playing up as a kid, and she's trying to kind of discipline him, but he's not listening. So she puts on the coal, and she slams on the table, and she yells at him because she's like, you got to be listen to your mother, and he kind of and then she's talking to herself as him. But it also shows how lonely she is as well. That she's she hasn't had her partner for, I don't know if they touch how long he's been gone, but it's obviously been a while. But how hard it's been for her to she's fighting on so many different sides. She's trying to be a mother, trying to fight the regime she's trying to hide this girl. She's going through so much. And this is a little bit of a breaking moment for her, because she's just can he just listen to me? It's so hard that she's I have to be his dad. And she even apologizes to him as her father. And then she does it was so touching when they danced at the end there, because it was just she didn't want to be so mean to him, but she's just she's at her end. She's going through so much trying to fight against everything. And I thought it was such a, when you're talking about favorite scenes, I think that is my favorite scene in the movie with that.
That's funny. Okay. Thematically, I understand it. There's nothing thematically about it. I think I just kind of sat there and went, this makes me feel awkward.
It's a bit cringy, isn't it?
I think it's it feels like a different, a scene from a different film plopped in the middle, where it's a very different energy to the rest, where it's because I think the rest of the film kind of borders this line between very serious moments and very weird comical ones. It's like mostly comical.
It plays off.
Yeah, funny little like satire, like look how stupid this is.
Yeah,
and then it'll just drop in like someone being blown up and murdered, and you're like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
And that one kind of it's in between. I don't know. It to me it feels like thematically it's great. Definitely nothing about that. It does feel like a scene from a different film.
I think it plays in great because I don't think there's too many joke moments with his mother either. Like none of those moments with his mother are played off hilariously, except for when she like slaps Rockwell in the face early on. And she's like, "What have you done to my kid?" And she's like, "Oh."
yeah.
But
in the testes.
Yeah. So I was like, I really liked her character, like as like playing off for him because like it's such an important person for her, for him in his life. But like I can see what you're saying, but I just enjoyed it too much. I didn't think it was out of place at all because I feel like it's good to have those serious moments because especially when you're dealing with such a serious matter and dealing with it from like your mother's trying her best. Like in so many different, like you could just even be upset that she's like, it's hard to bring up a kid by herself, let alone hiding a young teenager in her her loft, and also trying to fight against the Nazi regime.
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's one small gripe and an otherwise great film. But like I think other than her, because I think I love her character in the sense that like it's never apart from that slam, it's never like I need to discipline him, and it's always that thing of like she never. I don't know. She never just goes, "You're wrong, I'm right. Take that."
Yeah, she never attacks him for being like a Nazi, right?
Yeah, it's like the anti. It's like that idea of like a lot of people have problems with their parents or something where it's like they talk down to them, or it's like I'm right, you're wrong. She's always talking to him like an adult. Like she's having a political discussion with him, and it's like, well, here's my viewpoint. This is what's wrong with your viewpoint, and this is why I interject this. It's never just like you're a kid, you're stupid.
Because that's why that moment when she pretends to be the father and be angry at him, because that's the first time we ever see that from her in the whole film, treating him like a kid. Like she treats him like an adult through the whole movie because she needs to. But that's what I like as well. She never attacks him for being a Nazi. I'm sure there was points as like, this is a bit stupid, but she never because that's like the hard thing. She like shows him understanding and caring rather than just being like, the Nazis are terrible people. They're doing these terrible things. You shouldn't be that.
Also because like he's this indoctrinated kid who loves them. It's
exactly.
Like, well, if you just say they suck, he's going to hate you.
Well, that's what I mean. Any little kid, you're like, if you attack the thing they love, they're going to be like, I hate you. You're terrible and not going to listen to you, right?
It's like at the dinner table where she does that for I think a second. She realizes it's not working, and then she like plays it happy and nice and like tries to teach him the other way, and it works way better. He's like,
exactly.
He's like trying to take the bread where he's like.
Because when he knows about it, he's like, I think I'm just a bit hungry. I'm not going to eat that.
I'm feeling so hungry.
And there's a small scene that I really like as well. That when you remember, there's a truckload of soldiers going to war, and then they came back all injured. And then she's like, just go back and help your mother.
And
I think it's just a very small scene, but it just shows that she understands the stupidity of wars.
She could have easily like kind of celebrated a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you got what you deserve. But no, she's like, your mothers are going to miss you as well.
A lot of you probably didn't want to go.
Well, because two of the kids were the kids from the camp. They were sending off because when they originally seen them, they're like calling Jojo Rabbit as they like go by.
The truck that comes back though, I think it's a bunch of random dudes.
Is it?
It's a bunch of much older guys.
I can't remember if it was the same dudes or not.
I don't think so.
Perhaps. And of course, we have to talk about the side character of Sam Rockwell.
Oh my god!
So I think I would just leave the trend to Leon for this one.
So I love Sam Rockwell and everything he does. Ever since Moon Man, I'm like, yes. No, I think I'm so interested in his character because I think that really shows, because he is like this war hero. He's been in wars. Like the first time he's introduced, he's like, popping off shots and like doing one-handed little things. Very Sam Rockwell, just like bigger than life. But I don't know. I think he is the most nuanced character in the whole thing because he's this like guy who is fighting the war. He's actively trying to win it in the ways that he can. He's very cynical. He's like, we're going to lose, like definitely. But at the same time, he's like, oh, I'll do what I can. But he also obviously doesn't agree with it. Like every time Jojo brings up like Jews, he's like, oh, this conversation again. He's like, I don't.
He's a bit fed up, but probably also like, can we stop carrying on about this?
He's like, I think he's that classic idea of like, oh, I'll do my duty, but I completely disagree with my duty every way.
Well, he doesn't, maybe not the ideals he doesn't agree with, but he's there to fight for his home, right?
Which is very ironic because he's supposed to be a war hero. He's there to indoctrinate all these kids. But deep down inside, he doesn't believe.
Well, that's what I mean. He's very like flimsy and all over the place. He's kind of he doesn't like, he's all in on this, right?
Yes.
Because my favorite moment is when I think Jojo goes in and he's like drawing his plans for his like suit. And he's like, these are copyright. You know what that means? You can't take these.
That means you cannot copy them.
They cannot copy that.
Oh yeah. Also, like random edition of God, what's he in Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones. He's Theon Greyjoy. He's Lily Allen's brother. I can't remember his first name.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
But it's funny. Even his character, I'm like, are they like an idol couple? Because there's so many times.
That was my thing.
There was one movement when they're like looking into each other's eyes.
He yells at him. And he's like, I'm sorry, I yelled at you.
And they're like, look at each other very,
very.
very.
I wrote down. I think I have a note down here that's like,
because I thought, a
lot of tension.
Because they're all very like close to each other through the whole film. But that was the moment. Okay, there's something here.
Well, yeah, I think it's that kind of thing of like, because I think it's definitely there because it's like, is that the straw that broke the camel's back? He was like a war hero who was like very, but he like fell in love. Obviously, the Nazis were very anti-homosexual, so he's like, oh well, if they're anti-me, then maybe I don't really care about the Jewish.
And like even the way he, whether or not how he designs his suit, how you ever want to describe, but very flamboyant.
Very flamboyant.
Yeah.
But it was great. I loved when he like showed up in the suit and like Jojo's looking at. I think they're on like they were both there, and I'm like, I didn't think we were going to see it, but I'm like, I was glad that they showed it.
I did not think they commit to that. They did. I was
so
excited.
I was like, I thought it was just a funny little bit, but I'm like, they committed, and I like.
Also, that whole montage is like that. I think that montage is a perfect encapsulation.
That was
of the film
amazing
because it's like Rebel Wilson like firing, getting blown up, some random thing, and then like it's Sam Rockwell in a cape, and then like the next scene is like dead grandma in a rubble, and you're like, whoa, and like that montage goes from like funny to like look at all these murdered, like Elliot as a child in the corner like screaming and crying,
because it wasn't even like. Because it's like the whole idea, these Nazis are dying, right? Yeah. But I do think it shows a good example. At that point in the war, it was literally like the old men and, the kids fighting at the end.
They had the girls at the start who were like, you're going to learn how to make babies. And like, she's got a machine gun. Like,
I do like when she's like, I pick up the machine gun and she's like, she's like, all right. And then boom, and then she's dead.
Like one of the things that she did as well, she's like, oh, you're a kid, just put this on so they don't shoot at you. And then bring the grenade and then just trying to run and hug them.
See that American? Go hug him.
Yeah, go hug. I was like, oh, God. I was literally like, but,
Also, I think I have several notes in here that's just in all caps. Clones! Clones!
We need somebody to walk the clones.
That random, really offside bit joke was like, he can walk the clones, and then the last montage, they all run past him. And I'm like, I hope that kid got paid 8 times. 8 different takes of him being a clone.
Talking about like when they're wearing like the suits, the paper suit his friend's wearing. It's like, oh, it's a special suit made out of paper.
Yeah, it's paper-like.
It's like, I'm like, oh my God.
I honestly, because you said before, like normally the character's the good character is the main character. I looked, when you said that, I was like, yeah, like in most films, I think Elliot would be the main character, like the sweet little boy, or Jojo would be the weird one that he'd have to convince. But it's like, no, Jojo's evil, and Elliot's the sweetest little kid in the entire world.
And throughout the movie, I was scared that they would do something to Elliot as well.
Oh, I was terrified.
I was like, please don't blow him up.
Please don't kill Elliot. I don't know. That would have made me sadder than the mum. Like, I genuinely was like, don't. He's so lovely.
He's so sweet.
He's so
like,
good.
When he's carrying around like the grenade launcher and he like drops his, and he drops it and it blows up. I think he's like, oh no.
Yeah. Also, definitely like with like Sam Rockwell and that thing, like at that last point where he's like,
when he saves
Jojo, like rips off the jacket and pushes him, like spitting at him.
Filthy Jew.
It's like, oh my God, that's
because that even like solidified for like Sam Rockwell's character of being like, he doesn't really believe this, and he doesn't believe these kids should be punished for like their mistakes, and him just like pushing him off to save him.
There's like a split second line that I was like, wow, that is incredibly deep and has so much to it. Where like it's like where the other people are being pulled up, and there's a guy for like 2 seconds. He's like, no, I'm not like them. Just for once, he's like in the full genuine uniform. He's probably like, he's not one of the teenagers, but he's the age of one of those teenagers who would have bullied Jojo. And he's like, oh, I'm not one of them. And you're like, wow, how, like, wow, I guess, because like for them, it's like you could have been indoctrinated, you could have been like completely against it, but if you said anything, you were shot. But on the other side, the Allied forces, everyone would have said that. So like you can't believe, because there could just be a super indoctrinated dude who's like, no, oh no, it wasn't me. But like they've been shooting people in the back of their heads up.
Did it say what city it was in? Because it wasn't like Berlin. It wasn't like the final. I don't think it was, because they were the Allies that came.
Yes.
Because obviously Berlin's were taken by the Soviets.
Yeah.
Because that's why I was thinking, I'm like, if there was a Soviets, they wouldn't even ask questions.
They
would have shot all of them. But that's why I was like, I was like, I'm hoping they don't just shoot these.
I don't think it was even named. I don't think.
No, that's what I was trying to think. So that's why I was like, when they said it was the Allies, I'm like, it must have been on would have been the east side of Germany probably. But that's why I was like, I'm like, even like the final thing with Sam Rockwell, like actually committing to saving the kid and stuff. And then even also like, even when that all ends and he like goes back to see the girl in the loft and then she's like, is it done? He's like, cause he's like, oh shit. I have nobody left anymore really. And like my city's burned down. All my beliefs are like done. And then he like lies to her to say, oh no, it's not safe.
Also, I actually, with that relationship then, I like that. I was so kind of happy and glad when they were like, he was like, I love you. And he's like, you obviously love me as an older sister. And she's like, yeah, I love you as a younger brother.
They don't commit to that.
Yeah,
I was worried about that. Well, more that like, it probably wasn't necessary really.
Yeah, I'm saying you're too young. I was like, I don't see a love story between them.
Because she's either like 18, 19 or like maybe in her 20s or something, like early 20s. Like
in real life?
No, her character, I think.
Did
she say her age?
In the teenage years, I think 14, 15.
Well, because I think, because he's 8.
Yeah, he's 8.
Oh, no, he's 10. Sorry, he's 10.
Yeah.
Because they often say 10-year-old. And I think she's meant to be the same age as his sister, and I don't think she's that old. I think because she mentions like, oh, like he proposed to me and like, we danced the night. But I think it's an era where you could
but that's what I mean.
14-year-old.
Or probably even younger. But like that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't think she's like an adult yet.
No,
still
like, I think she's like, I would say she's like 14 to 16. Yeah, something like
that's
that.
what I was thinking. But it was like, I like at the end when she like tells him the truth and she like slaps him across the face. She's like, yeah, I probably deserve that.
yeah.
Because it was like a very touching moment of being like, okay.
And before they got out of the room as well, like, he tied the shoes, and then he repeated what his mom told him, like, oh, like when she asked him, is it dangerous?
Yeah,
extremely. And what do you think about the progression of their relationship? Because in the beginning, they both hated each other, and he was indoctrinated with all these ideas of Jew people being the monsters, 3 heads, tentacles, and stuff.
And she leaned into it
as well, which
I love. That she's like,
well, I think she's like, there's no point in it.
She knows.
You know, the cookies will kill us as well.
Yeah, I love that when she's like, oh, we can't watch you like bread, milk, especially cookies. Oh, they'll really get me. And he's like, he's like, oh, okay, I get what you're doing.
I also like the last one where it's like, if she didn't say biscuits, he may have brought her bread and water.
No, but that's what I was thinking. I think he nearly like fell for it until she like went a little bit too far. But she
I think I like it because I think at every point when like something was revealed or he said something or she said something, I was expecting that moment in every film where it's like, they're good. Oh no, something bad happens. We don't like each other. And now, here's the reason we all discover and we all make up. But I think it's a very consistent, it's like a back and forth. Like some days he really likes talking to her. Other days he's like, no, you're a dirty scum or whatever.
It is very touching, like early on when she talks about her fiance and he like writes letters, fake letters.
The first letter is messed
and it was
up.
really brutal. And he knows he upset her. He's like, I wrote her and I was like, oh no, that was all lie. And this was like very at the start. So even then you're like, oh, he's like, he understands he's done something wrong and he still tries to make it better with her, even though technically
he's supposed to hate her, right?
In the beliefs he probably wouldn't have made up with her, but he still cared enough to be like, oh,
And then she makes the drawings of him. And honestly, that last story, the Jojo Rabbit cage thing, I went on Google, I screenshotted that. I'm probably going to go get a tat of it after this.
Oh shit, it's pretty cool.
I haven't put it in, but I'm like, I want to go get it.
It was like the perfect, it's a perfect image of what the film is for this boy, right? He's kind of caged in this idea, and then like finally like let out.
Yeah, well, I think that image of like him holding the key, looking at himself trapped, and that's like or like looking at that's part of him that he's trapped, that he thinks is wrong, but it's quite lovely. It's a good thing. Also, I had that thought because when she walks out, it's like, oh, it's dangerous anymore. This obviously wasn't answered by the film; it's more a historical thing. I'm like, what was the turnaround? Like, if you were Jewish and still, amazingly survived the Holocaust, like what was the environment like after that? Like, could you walk around? Was there still this anti-sentiment?
I don't even, because I know they put up a lot of like immigration camps and stuff to like get it. I'm sure they probably didn't want to stay in Europe too much.
Yeah, of course.
And it's also, like I said, Berlin was taken by the Soviets as well, and they were not much better than like the Nazis in their like ideals about people. Yeah. So it's like they, in our character, probably got lucky that the Allies found them. But if the Soviets found them, because they occupied the city, because whether if you want to get into the like war side of it, because Winston Churchill was worried that that the Russians would keep going, that this wouldn't be the end kind of thing. But that's why it's rough, like, because I watched a documentary like maybe a couple of weeks ago about like the whole Nazi thing and the like image of like the camps and stuff they show. I don't think I've ever seen them before. They're brutal.
They are horrible.
They're some of the worst things you can see. Yeah. And I was like, you like, at least you hope they like found a better place, because obviously there's a lot of like still people, well, I don't know how many would still be alive, but there's still like a lot of people that like got through it and got out, which is kind of crazy to think. Like, it's kind of like it just ends in such a perfect way, I feel.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big testament to this film is that obviously with comedy can come insensitivity, and there's literally not a moment in this whole film where I was like, oh, that's a bit, like all of it was very respectful. It was even like I think we can go on to talk about Taika Waititi's character.
Yeah, because he's probably the most offensive if you could.
Yeah, like
he's Hitler.
Yeah, he plays Hitler and he's like the most offensive, but then even then it's like... It's
played off very funny. Like how he jumps out of windows and stuff. It's very comical.
Random. Also, I noticed as the film goes on, because the first time Jojo imagines him in his room, he's got like the blue eyes, he's perfect. And I feel like that's definitely a theme in the film. Is as it goes on, Hitler turns more and more into just this dude.
Even more like the ideal of like what he is, kind of like an angry man yelling these things at people. That's like what he becomes.
Well, because that first one, he's got the perfect blue eyes. And it's like he didn't have blue eyes; he had brown eyes. But obviously, it's what Jojo is imagining.
Well, that's what I mean. And he even thought he was a German, right? And he was from Austria.
Yeah,
he wasn't even a German.
And it goes on.
Even like if you want to get into the whole, Aryan thing, that wasn't even real either. That was just something they pushed so they can push their agenda. So it's like that's. Whether we want to get into fascist leaders or whatever, but that's kind of like their ideals are kind of like, they kind of try to make a cult and have these ideals where people are like, oh yes, I am the superior being, I am the superior person. Yeah. So all these things I do to these other races is right because I'm the best.
Also, weirdly enough, this isn't going to be the only film we talk about that has themes around eugenics.
I know it's crazy, but
there's I'll bring that up later.
Yeah,
but,
we will.
My God.
But that's why I was like, that's why I didn't watch the film initially, because I was like, oh, it's such a hard thing to go around like Nazi Germany and be like, come across, like enjoy the film and not feel like, oh, that's a bit out of taste or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not like making jokes as like the Nazis, like that's going to be easy because, probably one of the most vile things ever happened in like human history or one of them. But I think it does do a great job of like towing the line between like respectful and kind of like funny. Because like, especially like you said, that end scene where like the end of the war, like, there's so much brutal things, but there were those funny moments like with Rebel Wilson or with Sam Rockwell with the suits. They're like play off quite well in this film.
I think they did the thing that everybody always talks about, where it's like comedians nowadays, a PC culture's gone mad. Oh, you can't make jokes about anything. It's like you can. It just matters. It matters about who's the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
And I think the butt of the joke in this is always the Nazi.
And still be like a little bit more tasteful rather than just like saying it just because it's going to make someone upset. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's like the one they're making fun of in this film is very clearly the Nazis. Where I'm like, good.
That's
good.
what I mean. There's
good person to pick.
That's what I mean. There's no like in between, right? It's just laughing at what happened and what they did.
I think I mentioned this to Darren, but actually, apparently, I saw like in an interview or something with Taika Waititi that when he was like preparing for the role, somebody else like, oh, what did you do to prepare to like get in the mind of Hitler? He's like, well, didn't really need to. He's a massive asshole. He's a bad dude, so I just played a bad dude.
An asshole.
He's like, I didn't really need to get into the mind of Hitler.
Exactly.
I didn't need to understand where he was coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
He's Hitler.
Yeah,
that might be a good spot to leave it on. I think leaving on.
Yeah, he's Hitler.
And you mentioned that during the Second World War, the Communist Party took over Europe as well, and I think this is a good segue into another movie that deals with the Communist Party, the 2017, The Death of Stalin. And surprisingly, this movie didn't do well at the box office.
No.
And it was banned in Russia as well.
I wonder why.
I can't imagine why.
They're very free-thinking people. I don't know why they would have banned this.
So the movie was still made on a quite big budget, $13 million.
13?
13.
Wow. Okay.
I think
also
that's pretty reasonable, I feel.
By Hollywood standards, not the same, but it surprises me that Jojo Rabbit has a very similar budget when this is mostly a film of rooms and halls.
Yeah, exactly.
And the box office of Death of Stalin is only 24.6,
which I'm not too surprised with.
Yeah,
because it's like
just broken even.
Because it's very hard to like. How do you market a film?
I don't think they marketed this movie at all.
Because I don't remember. That's what I remember. I don't remember it very well until I think I might have seen it in streaming or something. Like, oh, what's this? Like I've never heard of this.
Which
before.
I feel like could have been, because I think that's a problem with. I think that's where people can lose money is if you advertise, because it's a good film, it's a great film, like to preface it, but I think it's one of those films where it's hard to market, and once it gets out, because I think that's a big thing, is like the family movie, like what do you go to the movies to see?
You're not seeing this,
and most people aren't taking their kid. Like who's the people going to see this? It's probably like somebody and their friend or like other friends of the same age who are probably above the age of like 16 and above, like or actually maybe 18 and above. I don't know
Maybe
what
a bit older if they've studied history or not, because they
Yeah,
might be like
yeah.
interested and like, oh, I've never heard.
Yes, but it's like, you know, but they also can't really have kids because you're not going to take your kids to see this. This isn't really a date night movie. You're going to go watch it alone. So like,
How do you like Stalin? I've got this great movie.
do you like Star Wars? What a great. That's your pickup line.
That's my pickup line.
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
feel about Stalin?
Swipe right match. You like Stalin?
Wait till you hear about my thoughts on Hitler.
Let me type out the entire Communist Manifesto
God.
and send it to you.
Yeah, it's a short read.
Yeah, but I think it probably honestly did this film better not to do it big, because I think even with a big advertising campaign,
They probably would have lost.
you would have
on it.
lost more money.
100%.
Because it's one of those films. Unfortunately, it's really good, but it is a bunch of dudes talking in a room.
It's not a box office film.
No.
Because you could even argue Jojo Rabbit's not like a box office film.
Yeah.
But like it's going to be hard. It's not like going to get a big Marvel movie kind of push, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just going to hope it hits those people that, like you said, like, oh, maybe interested
Yeah.
in like the history.
I feel like you can take your kids to Jojo Rabbit to enjoy it and start introducing them to the
to
themes.
ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a good learning film.
Yeah,
right?
but then like Death of Stalin, it's like
Nah.
no, it's
Yeah.
a bunch of guys saying very big words very fast.
I was going to say, do you like politics? This is how politics work.
yeah, God, wow.
Bunch of old guys in a room arguing with each other about
Yeah.
nothing.
And I loved it personally.
No, I love
I
it,
really
yeah.
enjoyed it
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Also, before we go into it, definitely both of these films, because Jojo Rabbit kind of tried. This film does the classic thing that I love. Every time it happens, like I laugh. I understand why, but I laugh. Where it's like, you get a bunch of actors, you bring them in, you do a film about a place. No one does the accent.
Yeah, no, there was no, which I think is good, like because I think it helps with the comedy a little bit as well. If they're all trying to, put on this Russian accent, I think it wouldn't sell the movie. I think I feel like I'd put up with it with 5 minutes and be like, oh, this is,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can sit through.
Yeah.
Well, might have been funny watching Steve Buscemi trying to do
Oh
Russian
my god,
accent.
that's what I wanted. I feel like we would have added to it.
We could ask him, be like, hey, can you just do 10 minutes of a Russian accent for us?
Does he do cameo?
He might, who knows?
But yeah, I think everyone makes fun of like Chernobyl for doing it. I think that's the big joke.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, oh, everyone's British. It's like, no one does the Russian accent.
Yeah, because it's a fine line between like making it realistic, but I think it's easier for like political satire to be
Yes.
like, you understand we're making fun of this, right?
Yeah,
we're not trying to make it historically
Yes.
accurate in the way that it's like everything's lining
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Also, I feel like it's that other thing of like, because there are some films, even like very serious films, that aren't jokes, that they just don't do it because it's like we could do it, but we also
Yeah.
could do it bad.
Yeah, because that's the thing, you don't know until it comes out and then people are like, oh, that sounded stupid.
Yeah,
and then it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
there goes the
Yeah.
whole film.
Yeah, and so it
Yeah.
can be better just to be like, oh, it's not.
I think it's better to be like, we won't touch this unless, because that's what I mean. You'd never know until you're like, okay, that sounds good enough that we're not probably going to get backlash
Yeah.
to be like,
Yeah.
why is he doing this
Yeah,
stupid?
even Jojo Rabbit, you could tell they were like, all right, the adults will try and get him to do a bit,
Mm.
and all the kids they were like, eh. Like Jojo does it like
little
sometimes
bit?
he's German,
Sometimes,
sometimes he's
yeah.
British.
Yeah.
Elliot just doesn't. Nope.
Because
He's like, hello, Jojo.
especially for kids, because it's going to be even harder for them to even
Yes.
remember to keep doing it. Because I was like, I couldn't imagine trying to pretend to be like a German or a Russian
Yes.
for
Oh my
like,
God.
for 3 months or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like trying to do the accent. Yeah.
But I think Death of Stalin is.
That's interesting because the director, he brought this up during one of the interviews. He said he purposely asked the actors not to do the accent.
Yeah.
So just to help with the satire thing
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. Well, probably it helped them because
Definitely. Like
Yeah.
a bunch of British dudes. Well, Steve Buscemi, he's not British.
I think he's American.
I remember I saw Michael
I
Palin.
think he's American, isn't it?
Yeah,
He does-
because that's what I was like. I think a lot of them actually. It's probably like nearly 50. Because I saw Michael Palin, who's from Monty Python fame, and I love him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, I didn't know
That
this was
freaked
him.
me out. I was like,
ah.
where do I know you from?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, it's Cheese Shop.
Yeah. But I was like, oh, and even like the guy that like takes over next, I forget his name.
Yeah, I always.
He's a comedian. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah, because I know
Sorry?
him from
His name is Jeffrey Tambor.
Jeffrey
Tambor.
Tambor. Because
Yeah.
I know him from. Why have I forgotten the name of the
It's
show?
always Sunny in Philadelphia. Is
No,
that?
no, he's not in that.
No.
Why have I
I
forgotten the
know
name?
what you're thinking about.
Oh, I've got the name right there. Arrested Development. There
Yes,
it is. He's
Arrested
the father in
Development.
that.
Yeah, that's the big one.
But they've got like the cast was great in JoJo, but it's great in this as well. I think
Yeah.
all the casting in this is done
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah, there's one Russian minister. He's a smaller character. I think he's got like the blonde hair. He doesn't talk like that much. At first, I was like, "Wow, you look like Austin Powers." In like that one time he was in like that. He played like that British character, and like I think it was. Was it Babylon? I
It
can't
might
remember.
have been, but
But yeah, and he hardly spoke, and I was like, I don't know you. You remind me of
Somebody.
I think you're in something, but I love you. He has like 3 lines. He instantly people just turn and be like, shut up. And I love him. He's my favorite.
I don't even know where you start with this film. Maybe we start with the name of the title, The Death of Stalin.
Yeah.
I do think is it the first scene where they're all like talking in the hall together? Or no, it might have been just after, where they're all sitting down having dinner and they're all like cracking jokes and stuff. And it just sets the atmosphere perfectly for how Stalin runs his team.
Yeah, terrifying.
Because he has, I forget the name of like the guy that runs like the
list.
The list. And then they're all, when they make a joke or say something, they all kind of look at each other. Oh, is this it?
I might go on the list because I made a joke about a fart instead of a poo.
Or I didn't laugh at his joke, or I didn't think it was funny.
And I think one of the deputies, so the guy he's played by Jeffrey Tambor, he asked like, "Oh, how is that guy?"
Yeah,
and then everyone's
they're like,
he's on the list.
He was on the list, and everyone was just like, looks at Stalin.
Stalin does the thing where he's like, "Oh, you want to know how he is?"
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
like, "Wow, you're about to get the list because you talked about the guy."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and one of the small details that I like as well. So Steve Buscemi's character, after the dinner, he came back home and he's just like, "Okay." He talked to his wife. Today I made this joke about the horse. Not funny. Cross it out. I made a joke about the tea. It's very funny. Keep it that in. So that.
And the next morning they're reviewing it and he's like, What are these notes? What are these notes? And it's like, this is how you said it.
How drunk were you? How much did you have?
And it's like, don't criticize my notes.
He's like, oh no, it's like horse racing, not horses, or something like that. I can't remember what it is exactly.
And then she like reads it back to him. It's like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But I did like that idea because he takes it serious because it is life and death. It could be the difference between being killed or being like left around. Because before they enter the room, I like it, and Stalin's like, "Oh, I love that guy. He's funny." So you already know he's done his job well. But he's like, "I'm not going to get put on the list."
I like even then, like, because I think everybody always thinks of like. Because it's the Animal Farm thing where it's like, all the people in Stalin, it's like everybody's equal, but we're more equal than others. But it's like that idea that the cabinet of Stalin like was all kind of rich, but then even like his closest cabinet, Stalin was off in the mansion in the woods, when like all his kids have like infinite money, but then even his ministers are like in an apartment where the toilet doesn't work. And they're like, oh no, this is like a dysfunctional society.
Well, that's like working. The point, right? It's kind of like, you push these ideals, but you don't really follow them right. Because that's like, whether you get into Stalin or stuff, but he wasn't really, he was a crook to begin with. And he kind of did all these horrible things to keep his power, right? It wasn't like, he wasn't doing it for the better of the people. He killed a lot of them. He killed a lot of Russian people, many. It was insane when we talked about World War II, he literally put out an order. It's like, if they turn around and run back, we shoot our own men. So you either die by German bullets or you die by Russian bullets. And I'm that's fucked up. That is so fucked up. And that kind of like puts a perfect line for how he ran things.
Yeah, even like the scene of the list like puts it pretty, like it's like a little short 5-ish minute scene and it just perfectly encapsulates, you get pulled out of the street, you don't know what's going on, you get shot in the back of the head. And that's it.
And when they're writing a list and he's like, he had a guy and he's like, oh, what about his wife? He's like, I'll take her as well or something. Like there's not that much thought into it.
And like what is the main, probably like the main cabinet minister who they talk about the most, the one writing the list, I can't remember his name.
I always forget him. He was great, but
it's like Beneznikov or something.
Something like that.
Just something Russian,
Because that's what I was like, I'm never going to...
Beria. So his full name is Lavrenti Beria.
Yeah, so I think Beria, like, he walks out and he's like, oh, okay, so this one, like, push him down the stairs, like, kill him, and like, this one, like, put a bullet and, like, put the gun in his hand, and then he's like, oh, and the rest don't care. So it's obviously like, oh, these targets would cause a fuss, so let's try and cover this up a bit, and the rest, you can just shoot them in the back of the head.
It even plays on the fact that they just kill so many. That it's just like, at a point, it's like, well...
I was like, this film is so, I think I get why they didn't do the accents, because it really toes the line between, like, it's so serious but so stupid.
Well, I think that's what's great about it, because a lot of it is like historically accurate, but like to a point where it's like it is kind of goofy.
Yeah, well, it's like this is like the humor is like this is a ridiculous situation. Like what is going on is insane, and that's funny. And like I think it like in Berev's like Berea. God, I'm gonna do Berea.
What were you gonna call Berea?
I'm gonna talk about this later when we get to the other film, but I'm getting confused with Berezhnikov. And there's a very specific reason I'm gonna bring up later, which is the funniest meme I've seen about the Russian war. But yeah, he's just walking around like his offices, and there's like a dude that gets thrown down the stairs like 3 times.
Yes.
Oh, when they're torturing, he's in like the torture place.
Yeah, and you just keep seeing this guy fly past a door down some stairs, and I'm like, this is so stupid. But like literally, that probably what something
Kind of,
done.
yeah.
It just puts
It's
them
that
in the stairs.
absurd because they're probably torturing and interviewing so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that's
It's just
not
like-
crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like that hallway scene when they're walking around and you hear all the scream coming out, and then you hear gunshots in there as well, and they're just like, just go through the list. It's just
Yeah.
like a normal day at the office.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I mean.
yeah.
Like they're doing these horrible things, but
That's
it's just so
crazy.
it's so jovial to them.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think that gets into it because of all of these horrible things. I think it's a part of it is then Stalin. Spoilers: Stalin dies.
Is that historically accurate?
Yeah, and then it kind of gets into that thing of like, then they all try and be the hero, but it's like
Yes.
they all suck. But like, is it
Yeah.
their fault? Do they have to suck in that situation to stay around?
Because even the fact when he dies, which is hilarious to think,
Yeah.
when he actually like pass out, they do it accurately in the movie, and the guards are like, "Ooh, we don't want to go in there and
Yeah,
disturb
yeah.
him because we
Yeah.
don't know what's going to happen."
Yeah.
And that's what literally happened in real life. They didn't do anything until the lady came in to like serve him breakfast. They're just like, "Oh shit, he's dying or
Yeah.
dead."
Yeah.
And it's just hilarious that like you rule by so much fear that they're even worried about trying to help you.
Yeah.
Because they
Also-
might be like,
It's like 10 minutes long. It's a long scene of them like all trying to like be like the saddest one.
Yeah.
Where like,
But you don't need to prove that anymore. Like,
because they're like, oh crap, he might not be dead yet.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
And
and
that
like,
was great.
Yeah,
I
like they
love
get in
that.
in the Wii, and it's like, oh, like and so he walks away and he
I
comes
don't want to
back.
hold this part. Like, well, I want to
Yeah.
hold the head. Like,
And then the next, I think it was the Secretary of State. So the next in power is like someone. He walks away and comes back, and someone's like, "Did you do your hair?"
Yeah.
He's like,
We've got to do this, we've got to do this.
Yeah,
And we're
yeah.
like, I love how they're already all scheming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because like even before it starts, the guy like
they run outside.
or even he goes in to like get the papers from his
yes,
office.
he did. So
Yeah.
he was
He's
the
like
first person
trying-
who came to the room.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, instead of asking the leaders, like, okay, I think my name is on the list. So I think he took one of the booklets out. I'm pretty sure his name was on the list.
I don't know what it was on the list. I thought those papers he grabbed were because remember at the end, towards the end, where he's like, "I've got like all this information, all of you, and all you've done."
Yeah.
I thought that was what that was.
It was probably a bit of that as well, but like he's just trying to cover his ass as well.
Pretty much.
Rather than like that's what I mean. He's not. Oh shit, I can't help him. I'm like I'm gonna go get all the papers.
Yeah.
Like
He's
to
very
blackmail
calm,
him.
very cordial.
Yeah, but that's what's funny when the other guy actually comes and he's like, oh, I've got to like make it look like I'm sad.
yeah.
You know, and then he's like, oh, even he was like, oh, what do we? It's like,
Yeah.
what's like?
Yeah.
I'm technically next.
Yeah, the guy comes in his pajamas
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
and he's like, you didn't even get dressed. He's like, yeah, I just put it under like come in. He's like, and everyone's like, you in your pajamas. It was
Yeah.
great.
And then he could, I didn't have time to dress.
Yeah.
I had to come here for the leader. And I think before all of them came, they are talking about like, is Berea already there? So I think
Yeah, because they already
Yeah.
know.
Kinda
It's like,
know he's
who-
gonna
They're like,
take
who's
over
there?
the
It's like
power.
Bria. Like, oh fuck.
yeah,
he's
because they
already
already
there.
they already know what he's going to be doing. Because essentially, you know, he's got to cover his own ass and
Yeah.
make sure because he's like in a position of power, but it's not stable, especially like how it goes. Like a new regime, they're going to get rid of the person that was doing all the terrible
yeah,
things,
yeah.
right? Because even he was like, oh shit. He's like, when they have their first meeting, he's like, yeah, let's release everybody. He's like, but we just got all those people. It's like, yeah, let them all go. Let
like those voting scenes is hilarious.
Oh my god, that.
Put your hand up.
I mean, speaking of Monty Python, like that character, like just, and we need to do it. But and then it was like everyone like doing like the up down of their heads.
Then he's like, they're all trying to sell it, but it's like, would Stalin actually do this? No.
But
Yeah. And they're just like, are we doing it?
yeah, and it's such a weird thing because everyone's like, well, I can't vote against the group because then I'm going to be murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
we
killed.
it all has
so
to
I have
kind
to
of
wait
like,
till it's
Yeah.
unanimous
Yeah,
because if
yeah.
it's not unanimous, everybody who votes no will be shot in the back
Yeah,
of the head.
yep.
So everyone's like, is this?
yeah, well, no.
And I just find it funny that when they said, "Oh yes, it's unanimous."
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
obviously,
Yeah, every
it's
time it's
yeah,
unanimously.
unanimous.
Yeah, because they're all like, because I love it when I can't remember which rule it was, but Steve Buscemi didn't want it, and he's like last, and they're like, they all put his hands like, oh shit,
I think it's a minister for
Yeah.
for funerals.
For the funeral.
Oh, because
Yeah,
that's
you
right.
have to
He's
take
like,
care
you
of
can
the
take
funeral.
care of this. I
Ceremonial.
don't want to do that.
He's like, I got. He's like, yeah. He's like, I think he's like, I don't want to do that. We got stuff to do. It's like, I'm doing 3 things. You can do 2.
You can do 2.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like they're already at each other's throats from like
Yeah.
the beginning. They're like, oh shit, we're already vying for power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that split second where like Stalin's dead, very sad, or like he's going to die, and then like, Benev.
Berea.
God damn it!
Is it Berea?
I'm really getting messed up with Barishnikov. Benea is like, I'll go away and start my plans now and get ahead of the jump and risk it. And then that split second when like he's back and he's like,
Oh, what shit.
Yeah.
came
When he's like, he wakes up for a little bit. They're like,
yeah. And he goes to that doctor. He's like, you'll be remembered for this because he did his job well, and it's like, I'm going to kill you for doing your job well. And then he points to that. I thought they were going to pull the painting away and there's going to be like a secret vault behind it. That I genuinely was waiting for it. I was like, oh, they're going to pull away the painting. It's going to be a safe.
Yeah. And let's talk about the doctors as well.
Yeah, well,
all the doctors, we kill them all.
There's a regime. They're like, they're literally just blaming everybody. It's like, let's get rid of all the good doctors. And it's like, oh, we don't have any good doctors. Let's round up the doctors, and they've got the girl. They're like the sucky girl or whatever. They're like the girl that gives good head. They're like, oh, get her to go and get. She must know where there's still some good doctors. Round the guy's like just walking his dog, and he's like, it's like, I haven't done anything. And they're like, what about my dog?
They're also all kind of like, oh, let's just get let's get the shit doctors and just let them fuck.
Well, that's what they mean. Like, did we get good doctors or did we get the doctors that don't do it?
Yeah.
Because I love when they're like, what happened? And they're all like, all the doctors don't want to say anything because they're like, no, oh shit, they're going to blame me.
Yeah. Oh, also, God, both the children I hated.
Oh, yes. Let's
God.
talk about the
I think,
as well.
at the end, like, I think they try and make the daughter like a bit more sympathetic and like, oh, I didn't think it'd be you. But the whole time, like, I hate you. You're so annoying.
Yeah. From what I remember, the daughter, she's a bit naive as well. She doesn't really understand the real world. I think she asked Maria, I have this best friend. They die. Can you bring them back?
That was before because Michael Palin's character's wife gets taken. So because it's a great scene when he brings her back to her. Yeah. And he's like, oh, what about your wife? She's like, she was a traitor. She was against it all. And then she like walks in and says, oh, it's so lovely to see you again. And then,
I still don't think he likes her after that. Like,
well, he still
the whole film,
later.
He still talks about her being like a
traitor.
dirty traitor.
Even though it was literally just Stalin probably didn't like her and got rid of her. Like, wasn't anything more than that.
And I think Maria kept her just in case.
And that's why the daughter later is like, oh, maybe my friend's still alive, when it was literally like, I knew this was a pawn I could use for later rather than some person. Yeah. He's like, I will make this happen. And then she's like, did you find, you're like, you said you could do this. Like, he's probably done a long time.
Try and do the impossible.
Yeah.
No, and also the son. Oh my God.
Yeah, but that seems like the classic Russian. It's like in power. It's like I just drink all the time and do whatever I kind of want.
Did he kill the whole hockey team as well?
He was threatening it. He was threatening them because they're all terrible.
They unfortunately passed away not because of a plane that the Russians built.
Well, that's what they were saying. That's because that was the last one, right? They're like, it wasn't my fault for the plane or whatever.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it's a Russian plane, and they were like, are you inferring that Russian planes crash?
Yeah,
I'll kill you.
Oh, yeah. Damn. Like the two children, pretty much like they play into the role of like just don't understand. And I think there was a small scene when they were in the room, and Steve Buscemi was saying like, "Don't worry, I will protect you from all the dangers." And then
she's like, "What dangers?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh." The ones that are there.
And her brother got punched. That is the danger. Like, you should have jumped in.
Yeah.
I think it's also like that thing of, because they are two people who, I mean, it's not uncommon. They could have made a play for power. Maybe, if they were more politically active, she or he could have like tried to get Stalin's power, but they just both have no idea what's going on.
They're out of depth as well.
But it's even more that like, if you get into power, you can be like, oh, I'm friends with Stalin's kids. And they know me well. I think that's more of the play.
Or Stalin's kids don't support me. But they're going to mysteriously die.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like making a play that it's like, oh, we're great friends. That's why, I can be the next person in charge. Because that's like the rest of the movie after Stalin dies. It's like, who's going to make the right play? Because I love that like the next guy in charge is like taking the photos. He's like all done up. And he's like, I gotta make sure. Like he's like, and they're like, oh, what about the girl? Like in Stalin's time, we got to find the girl for my photo because I've got to take a photo with the little girl as well. You got to find her, and then like bring kids. Like none of them. I want the actual girl.
Yeah, we found the actual girl. Oh, she's too old.
Yeah, she's too old. Find someone else.
Just go find some girls that look like her. And it's like, we did that at the first one. You suck.
It's just great because it's just like they're doing these things that think will work, and it's just absurd.
And the actual photo with the girl is like the girl was just hidden behind the balcony, and then he's just standing over. That photo looks really bad as well.
Yeah. It's just.
Yeah.
Straight above. I also like how they specifically time the airplane to go over when the son's giving the speech.
They're
like very specific, and then like as he's like, should I start? And like you can kind of see them talking, and one's like, that's enough, that's fine, just come off, go off.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the son didn't make any play to run for office.
But like we said, like they weren't in any kind of position of power, right? Like his son just seemed to be in the army, but not. He's just kind of like tucked away, so wouldn't cause any problems.
Yeah, I was also fully expecting an army general actually to just be like, I'll take over.
Well, that was the big play, right?
Yeah.
When Steve Buscemi went to the army guy, he's like, I want to get.
Yeah, he's like, how dare you go? He's like, nah, I'm just messing with you.
I love it. He's great.
Yeah, he's like, nah, he's the most blokey dude. I'm like, yeah, you would be an army general. You feel like you still whip people on the ass with a towel in the locker room.
But like with any kind of cure play for power, you got to have like the army behind you, right?
Yeah.
Because that was like the big play because the other guy, he only had his own like private men that were doing all the like kidnapping and stuff.
The NKVD.
Yeah.
So they were replacing the army. They took away the weapons and stuff. But I before we get into that, I wanted to discuss the funeral scene quickly.
Because that was amazing.
Wow, so much happens.
Like the preparation is like, which like this color or this color? Do you want this and this?
Yeah,
I don't care.
I don't care. and then they walk in behind him. He's like, mahogany. Yeah,
love it. And I want to ask you guys your opinion on the scene where the people came in to visit Stalin, and then they did the position switch.
That was
what
great.
was that all about?
The attempted position switch. I like. He's like, we can make a part of the ceremony, and he like does like that very like.
Yeah, he's like,
what are you doing?
And
he's like, switch it to me. He's like, no. And so he just like does it again back, and everyone's like, what the f*** are you doing?
Oh, that's great.
Oh, then like everybody else is like, what's Beria doing? Like, what's going on? And it's like,
this is when they're all mid of scheming. They're all got their own plans going on. They're all like talking to each other. Like, you're going to back me, right? He's like, no, not if he doesn't back you. He's like, I'm not going to back you if he's not going to back you.
Yeah.
So they're all waiting.
It needs to be unanimous.
Yeah,
it needs to be unanimous.
It's not, the Communist Party unless they all agree on it.
Yeah. And then while they're at that funeral, that funeral goes, because it's like a multi-day thing. Like they do it. That starts with like Beria. Over the course of that one funeral, it's like Beria is locked in. He's 1,000% good. To the army has opened the trains. People have stormed in. They've murdered 1.5 thousand people.
Yep.
And then like Beria's lost. And then that end part where he's like just freaking out and being like I know that you did this, you did that. Like how dare you? Like you've ruined this. And he like completely bursts. And then obviously this is just the way it played out in the film. It's probably not how it happened in real life. But the next day he's like all buddy with them, and I'm like, remember yesterday when you like told them you were gonna murder them?
Yeah.
I was like, maybe there's something going on, bro. Something going on.
But that's it was great as well because it's like he pits it to like blackmail them all, and then we do this every other day apparently.
Yeah.
It
Also,
just seems like a normal occurrence.
Yeah, I loved when he's like, sorry, Monty Python character, the actor.
Michael Palin.
Michael Palin is like walking his dog, and he's like, "You guys suck! How dare you?" He's like, "Get in the car." Get in the car.
They can't hear us in the car. We don't want them to hear us.
And so he just starts playing with his dog, so the dog barks
and
they're
I love how the soldiers are like, what? What are they doing today?
What I love that this film does what I think Tenet wanted to do. Because remember how Tenet came out and everybody was like, I can't hear the dialogue? That was like a big controversy with that film.
Yeah, because it was very loud.
Yeah. This film kind of, it's like everything's chaotic. There's like 8 people talking over each other at the same time. But it's like, it's good because you're not really meant to hear any one part, and like the parts that you do need to hear, you generally do.
I do agree that like you can hear what you need because it is just mayhem most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And you can't really, hear. They're all yelling at each other or arguing about something.
Yeah. Well, this was the first one that I watched, and I think I spoke to Darren about it. It's such a stretch because nothing is happening, and then within the span of 2 minutes,
it all comes together.
That will be a major plot development. They'll just be like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. Do you want to open the trains? Yeah, okay, we'll open the trains."
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't feel. It's never like there's never that point where like, oh, that's the finale point. That's the monologue. That's like the and we will open the trains. It's like let's open the trains.
Yeah, it's not like it's not a big moment where it would be in a film where that would be like a half an hour thing where they're like showing to people. It was just like a minute. It might have been not even a minute, like 30 seconds of them just like letting them go. And then it goes crazy, and then they like shoot them all, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and even the lead up to it, it's just Steve Buscemi like, you wanna open the trains? Yeah, let's open the trains. Yeah, okay, let's.
Yeah, because they're even like, you've got everyone on your side. You're like, yeah. Even though I think you only had 1 or 2. Like,
when they're carrying out the funeral casket, and like none of them are confident enough to be like, let's do it. So he just lies and goes, yeah, everyone's on our side. Yeah, and then everyone is on their side.
He takes the leap, right? He's like, we're just going to do it.
Because I'm going to say Malkovich because I'm thinking of Malkovich. But like the Secretary of State who's in power now, his whole thing is like he doesn't want to betray his friend. But then in the rush of it, because he's just such a shy, kind of timid guy, they've got him on the ground, they've got a gun to his head, and it's like, just sign it. And he's like, no one takes it. Sign it. And he's like, oh, okay.
See, because it's not even about him having power. It's just like, we're doing this thing. Because that's even great when they're leading up to trying to kill him. and he's put the button under the table, and Steve Carell's like, push the damn button. He's like, what button? It's just
and so
push
he just
it.
leans over and pushes it for
That's
him.
like no subtlety at all.
He just does it. It's
yeah.
like they've set up this whole elaborate thing when it's like you just walked in with a gun. There's a whole
that's what I mean.
play.
It couldn't have. It literally could have just been like that, but it's like no.
Well, that's it. At that point, like he's trying to get out of the room. He's trying to get out of the window, like smashing the door. You literally could have just walked in the room. The guys with guns there, he would have been like, "What?" and just push him in.
Yeah.
But they're trying to set up all this elaborate shit that instantly folds, and they walk him out to like a barnyard.
Yeah, then they go to the barnyard and they're like, they got the like
That
the
trial,
list. It's
that's
like,
horrible as well.
It's like
Yeah.
Well, it's not a trial,
well,
is it? They're just like
it's
spurting
not
out
bad,
all the things that he's done
That's,
wrong.
I think that's kind of a funny thing is that because they drop the little pennies of like him getting that girl from like that place and like the maid.
Oh, of
Yes.
how he's a bad cause
And like they don't really
pedophile,
mention it. He's like, yeah,
they
yeah,
show
you'll do.
little things, right?
Well, because I think while that's going on, like they're also trying to look for the photo girl. They're also like stuff. So you just kind of like, oh, if we're going to use her for some like plot thing, or like he puts her in a prison for a second, and you're like, oh, maybe he's going to swap her out with the other one, so it looks like there's the same inmate. And in the end, it's like, oh, you've had fornications with like young girls,
kids, young girls and stuff.
and that's the one thing he's like. I think even the actor, like that's the one thing in the scene. He's like, oh. Like they found out.
Well, it's like they all know their dirty secrets, but
Yeah.
it's like when they have to make that commitment, it's like, oh yeah, we've got the dirt on you, so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's legit.
Yeah, they don't care really.
Because I think that it does a good, like, obviously without showing like the horrible like things he would have done.
Yeah.
But it's just like a little thing of like, oh, here's a girl he's like kept.
Yeah, in
It's
a
like,
car
what's he doing
alone,
with this?
and it's like,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, you'll do, and you're like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah, because there
Yeah.
was a car, and in when he takes it to her, they're like their gulag or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. But that's what I mean. It's like a girl in color. Oh, he knows he was trying to appease him, and then it's like, oh, and it's like, oh, because when I learned, like, it's like when they say all that shit, it's like, oh fuck, it's like it's real bad.
Yeah, that's it's a moment you're like, oh wow, God, thank God they didn't explore that.
And even when they get to his death, it's so unceremoniously. Like they're
Oh
trying to
my
like
God.
pull him outside. It's like, boop, someone shoots him. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
and they're all just like, well, it's done now.
yeah,
isn't it?
they're all like fuck you and
Yeah.
spitting on him, and it's like, wow, this is weird.
And I
Yeah.
think like the general guy, like, he was expecting something a bit more spectacular. He
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
let him get me out of here. And then some, what is it? Soldiers, it's like, bang.
Yeah.
And he looked
Yeah.
at the soldiers as well. Like,
No,
really?
like, because
like,
I think they're building up to
Well,
something.
they weren't even done reading the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
They were
And they're like,
it's like, oh, really?
and they're like,
they just burn him.
yeah. And
That's
even that's
insane.
brutal as well when they're all kind of standing there and you kind of like, you know, Steve Buscemi's made his push. You're like,
Yeah.
he's in
He's
charge.
in.
He's
Yeah.
in now.
And well, then they go to like that camera roll, and I think it's like I mentioned before, the daughter when she's like, oh, I never thought it'd be you. When
Yeah.
he's like, your brother's gonna go over here. He can't. So
Yeah.
your brother's going to stay here.
Yeah.
You're gonna go out. We're
Yeah.
gonna monitor him. You're gonna go out. Shut up. That's the way it's going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And she's like, oh.
Well, that's what I mean, because that's all they've done. They've just like listened to what these people have said. Because that's what's crazy, because it does a great example. Because early in the movie, we're like, oh, he's just a jokester. That's why he's kept
Yes.
around by Stalin.
Yeah.
He isn't like a great like soldier, you know. I was going to say none of them seem like great political people, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, he was the one that made the push, right?
You played the cards right, and it worked.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, oh, was he actually that funny guy? Or was he just putting on the mask and being that funny guy for political power?
Well, but that's what I mean. It shows he was prepared. Like, he wasn't just putting on the mask to be funny. He was doing it to survive and get through, right?
He did his research, like that notebook thing.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
He wasn't just some
So,
idiot. He
yeah,
was,
that's what I mean. He wasn't just a jokester. He had a plan.
Yeah.
So when this was all happening, I think he's like, oh, this is my play now. I can make a move.
Yeah.
Which is like, you look through Russian's history, because even when Stalin came into power, that's,
Yeah, it
you
was
know,
Lenin died. It was like the same situation. It was
Yeah, and it's like-
Trotsky, him.
there's a lot of people that could have come into power but have like vanished or gone away.
Yeah.
So it's like he did a lot of bad shit to get into power,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
do the same thing as well, because that's how they run. They're like,
Yeah.
you've got to like kill off the guy that's making the biggest move, or scare the shit out of the guy that's going to be in charge. Where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm going to take over
Yeah.
now.
Well, like it goes to the camera, and it's like he was in power, and here comes Baryshnikov.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
this is why I bring it up. So when it panned to him and the actor, I was like, wow, this is accurate, because it goes like he was in power until he was ousted by his like opponent or whatever. What like a genuine meme that went around my like year 12 VC high school group was this thing of like, it was a screenshot and it was like, you may have even seen it. It's like a top 10 eyebrows in the Soviet Union. And then it just goes 1, Baryshnikov.
2.
There's no one else. There is no beating Baryshnikov.
Yeah, geez, I wonder why.
Yeah, if you want to Google it, Baryshnikov's eyebrows, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
these
yeah.
ginormous,
They're big.
it's like 2 ferrets on his head. Just sitting there, and I saw it. I was like, "Oh my god,
Very-
it's eyebrow, dude!" And I couldn't.
That is so funny.
You know, they're not like, you know, as we would say, like no one's voted in, right? There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
democracy or anything.
Yeah.
It's just like who makes a play for power.
Yeah.
Because like if we even go to like, you know, what Russia is now. It's the same shit, right? Putin's just keeps putting himself in charge and getting voted in.
Well, that's what it's through the the breaking of the USSR and all that's what it was. It was just like massive power supply that eventually broke it apart.
And then the next person makes the play for power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's like weird thinking about Russia, because it's like they had the monarchy and then that broke for the communisms, and then when that broke, it's like the next thing comes in. And it's just like how it's worked in Russia, which is crazy. I don't even, whatever happens with Putin or whatever, but like, what's the next play over there?
Yeah, it's almost so crazy because like unless you kind of like it doesn't even take that much digging into history. Like you don't have to be a massive history nerd. But I think it's always that funny thing where people, and I think this film kind of explores it, where it's like people always think something's going to go forever until it stops.
doesn't,
And then it suddenly changes very quickly and very like in the course of a week.
Well, that's
a
the
whole
thing.
nation's course changes.
It doesn't take much, right? That's what's crazy. Like so much terror and like all kind of stops, and it's like, shit, what's next?
Yeah, because it's the death of one guy who's a very important figure, obviously, but like he could have been replaced and had the system that was the exact same.
Yeah, like the next person could have stepped in and just kept going,
or completely radicalized it, or done this, and that's what happens. It's like a week-long process.
But at
at
least it does show with like most of the guys that were making paper power, they understood that like just ripping people off the streets to kill them is like probably a bit much.
Yeah, like they're still bad people, but it's like that slow evolution.
They
like,
understand
maybe we
that,
should
like,
do this.
The people need to like us somewhat, right?
Yeah,
But it's interesting that you bring up that point, because it seems like they don't have any system in place for a replacement. It seems like he's going to be in power forever.
it's that thing of like, well, Stalin's immortal. He's made of adamantium.
That's like,
he's descended from God. Like it's that. It's when you build
That's
up
kind
that,
of like those leaders, kind of like Hitler. That's why they're like he's gonna lead us to the glory, and he's gonna be here forever. But when it goes bad or it ends, it's done. It's done.
Probably even saying the words like, "Oh, hey Stalin, should we make a plan for when you die?" He'd be like, "Why are you thinking about my death?"
He would be dead.
You're on the list.
Yeah, you're
thinking about my death.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that? Okay,
He'd make a face.
I'm just gonna write your name down.
Don't mind me.
What's your name again?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And I think we didn't discuss the opera, like the concert at the start and the beginning and at the end as well.
Because I think it was another great show of his like power, right? Because he rings them up and he's like, "Oh,
I want a recording.
I want a recording of that." And they're like,
did we record?
And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Did we record?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Get everyone back. Get everyone back.
Get him back in. Get him back in." That I have a note in my notebook that just says, fire safety is a bucket.
Yeah.
And like, because I don't know, this is completely unrelated. I was like, oh yeah, there was a time where fire extinguishers didn't exist. Would have just been a bucket of water. Just whoosh.
And then trying to run away as it burns down.
Yeah, I was like,
Because I guess that's even important, because the pianist is like a somewhat of a big plot point, because she writes a note to Stalin in the
recording,
vinyl,
in a vinyl disc,
and it's just like, "Oh, you're terrible.
You killed my brother," etc.
Steve Buscemi, apparently, was it his son or
his
daughter? Niece.
His niece.
So it's not even that close. His niece used her to like learn piano. So it's like, "I got you on this."
Yeah,
which is funny. It's like,
because Barry has like, "Oh yeah, you're connected to this pianist who said Stalin sucked, and hoped he died,
and I've got the note.
Now I have." And that's what freaks him out enough to be like, I need the army.
That's when I think, whether or not what's actually happened in real life, but that was the point for him. It's like, okay, I'm making a play, because I'm f***ed otherwise.
He's got this note on me. At any point in time, he could just...
The way that they organize the scheming and the planning things is very... I think it's just like very underwhelming in a way as well. Like they're talking about like, just open a train. Like, I got your notes. Like, because there are so many crazy things happening around it.
That's why it's underwhelming, because they're all insane.
Yeah.
Like everything because everyone's got blackmail, everyone's got something on somebody. So it's just like, hey, I've got this on you.
Yeah. It's even that thing as well, because it's so much like it's, probably realistic to real life. It's mainly improv. Like they open the trains to kind of be like, let's get back at barrier. But I don't think they think that 1.5 thousand people are going to die, and then they can blame it on
But it was a good way to blame him.
Yeah, it happens, and then they're like, "Oh, sweet, we can use this."
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. And just blame it on him because even then it's like technically he's the minister for trains, but it's like, oh, it's blaming on Beria because he was the one that didn't want the army in the city.
Yeah, and it was his men essentially.
Yeah. So he's like, he's the one that didn't want the army in the city, so he's the one that caused their deaths, even though it was definitely Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, it was his fault. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody else is like, oh yeah, no, we hate that guy too. That's okay.
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. None of them really liked him either.
Yeah, Buscemi kind of wins because he's the second to make the play.
Yeah.
Beria makes the play.
He's already scheming he's the earliest schemer.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, we know he's too smart. So it's like the smartest guy doesn't win because he played too fast.
And especially the position he's in, right? Especially like he's killed. I'm sure he's killed someone they all know or whatever, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
so they're like,
God.
it's like he's partly to blame for it as well. But that's why it's such a great movie. It was so much
it's
fun.
a crazy movie. I was so surprised when I saw the first few scenes. Like, is that people screaming in the background? Is that the gunshot? And then why are they acting so normally? Of course, this is the way they run this.
Just another day in Russia.
Yeah.
Just another day.
Are there anything else you want to talk about this movie before we move on to Leon's favorite?
I don't think so, but it was an amazing film. I will say that.
Yeah, I think like we've talked about kind of a weird like how nothing really happens, but it's a great film. I think it's one of those films that is you have to watch it. You can't have it on the background.
No,
I think
no.
that's
You need to
kind
kind
of
of pay attention.
Yeah, it's kind of what damages a little bit. But you know when you're paying attention, it's very interesting and I think this is a film that Jojo Rabbit, I probably won't rewatch unless it's like a feel-good day. I might watch this again because there's so much going on in the background.
The best way, it's like a terrible thing kind of happens, but they make such great, like it makes such a great fun movie.
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
You know,
And
like death scheming,
Yeah.
and it's just like, it's so much fun. These guys,
like-
these old men running around. Like
I should give it a try.
Yeah. I thought I could probably do a good job. I could do this.
I could put my life in danger.
But great fun. Great fun.
Who would you be from the cabinet minister? If you had to pick one, who do you reckon you'd be?
Oh my god.
I think I'd be the blonde guy who gets yelled at and told to
Yeah.
shut up.
Well, that's what I mean. I feel like I'd be one of the goofballs, or like even the one they wouldn't like think anything of, but it's like, just around, you know.
There's I think it's like the third or fourth minister to enter the room who's like minister for like, I think it's like education or something.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you wearing pajamas? You wearing? Every time he just gives like a little short like, you're an asshole, and then walks away. And I'm like, that's all he said. He just insults people and does nothing else.
Exactly. Oh my god. I feel like I could be any of them because they all feel like a bit of a joke and not really like into
I think
the
that's the
position.
idea, isn't it? Like they try to make them up as jokes, and I think in a way that they are quite similar as well. So it doesn't really matter who you go for, because they're all scheming. They're always hungry for power.
Yeah.
They're all terrible.
I think it's people would say all the time like, oh, politicians aren't the smartest people, but like at least in some form of democratic institution, they are picked and chosen by people. Whereas this is literally just like their buddies.
Yeah,
like, they're just
that's what I
picking
mean.
their mates.
Yeah,
Like, these
that's
are
what I
really-
mean. They're not people that should be in charge. They're just who's around.
Yeah, like by no metric are they really chosen other than just like, oh, I know him.
Yeah, imagine you're in charge of a country and it's just you and your mates.
Yeah.
And then you die and they're like, I think I could take over. Right?
And you've like the 3 or 4 other mates where you're like, I wouldn't trust you to
That's
run
crazy.
a cafe, let alone a country. And you're like, nah, I'll give
You
him
know,
an
bloody
office.
Mike that drinks all the beers. He's not in charge, mate. He doesn't bring the beers.
He can be minister for ceremony. He can plan the funeral.
Oh god, yeah. No, I think this movie definitely deserves another round of watching. Like I was very surprised and thrilled to watch the movie for the first time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good recommendation, Tim.
Well, maybe moving off the fun films now.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to Idiocracy, the 2006 cult classic, directed by Mike Judge and co-written by Ethan Coen. I'm not sure if he's from the Coen brothers, but his
I was
last name
thinking
is
that
Coen.
as well, but even a little fun note before, because we've been watching a lot of Wes Anderson films, and
Yes.
there's a Wilson in this. There's
Yes.
actually 2 of them. The
There are
brothers,
2 Wilsons,
but
yes.
not the good one. Owen doesn't make the cut,
Yeah.
but the other 2 brothers made it in.
Yes.
I
Anyway.
like them both. Not in this.
That's what I was thinking, because was this before that? Oh,
This is 2006.
yeah, so I was trying to think what film it would have been, but I was thinking, I'm like, going from Wes Anderson to this, it's like, oh my god.
I'm trying to think if he was in Legally Blonde yet, because that's what
Is he? Oh,
I thought the brother was. I swear, isn't
When's
he
Legally Blonde? Is that 202?
I think 02 or 03.
It's a bit earlier, yeah.
Isn't he in the first one? I think he's the love interest, like at the
I haven't watched
university.
him, I haven't watched him in
He
so
is.
long.
Yeah,
He's one of the lawyers in the Legally
Yeah.
Blonde. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I think so.
Yes.
Anyway, moving off the fun facts.
Yeah, God.
Would you like to jump into it, Leo?
Sorry, I was
Synopsis first.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid talking about this film.
Yeah, I
so
know. That's what I was like.
This film, in one sentence, is a college frat boy's idea of politics. It's like so. Our main character, lovely one of the Wilson brothers, decides Joe, classic Joe. Oh God. Is a part of the army, and his motto that his army sergeant drilled into him was, you either lead, follow, or get out of the way, and he's been following the get out of the way part. He likes to do nothing. He likes to engage with nothing. And so the army selects him as a perfectly average, in IQ and in physical, perfectly average dude to go into a experimental
hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah. An experimental Walt Disney chamber to be frozen for the future, along with
Rita.
Yeah, Rita, played by
why have I forgotten her name?
Maya Rudolph.
Maya Rudolph, who I love.
Yeah, she's great.
Great, often in very bad things.
Yeah.
Normally I'd say great in those things. Not in this.
Not
no
this.
one was good.
I don't think it was on her too much.
No, it's not on her at
This
all.
is like
but
anyway. We'll get into the
she plays a sex worker who is just randomly selected because of her pimp upgrade. There's more.
I
than
will
that.
say the name's pretty funny. Upgrade.
I expected a buy-off. Anyway, I'll get to that. Either way, they're both selected and they go on the cryo chamber. Meant to be released after a year. However, the army general is found to run a prostitution ring, and so they are forgotten about for 500 years. And they get to the far distant future of, because this film starts in 2005, and then it gets flinged to the far distant future of 2505. And our characters explore a world where all of the smart people were too smart, and so they didn't have any kids because of cost of living. That's the most realistic thing in this film.
Well,
and then all of the dumb people, because they're so dumb,
They just keep having kids.
and they're hillbillies, they keep having kids and then cheating on their wives and having other kids. And so by that time, everybody's dumb because only the dumb people have had kids.
He's gonna fix everything. So you smart, huh?
The ordinary will be considered extraordinary.
before we jump into the film, can we delve into that idea?
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
this
It's
is
eugenics.
the worst.
It's eugenics.
It is, but even beyond that, the idea of intelligent people have intelligent kids, which I could understand, but that's not how intelligence
That's not
works
how it works.
at all. I was literally because I haven't watched this film, I don't know when, from how long, because I couldn't really remember it that well. And I remember this and I'm like, this seems like the worst way to lead, to explain how a movie happens.
Yeah. Also, oh my God, the narration in this film
it's
is
so absurd.
constant. I think I wrote down in the book, I was like, I paused the film, went up, I was like, and wrote down, I think there's 20 minutes left of this film, and he's still narrating.
Yeah.
It just pops in all the time.
It is so 2000s to have this
God.
guy explain what's happening
and
or
it's
what's
the same
doing.
guy. It's he does all that. It's like back in my day. It's a bad just impression of much better things. But God, so he comes in and he's like, oh yeah, all the rich people. Because it's also definitely made out like all the rich people are smart people. Because in the opening bit, they play this little montage of there's a couple who are smart and are okay, and they're having marital issues and are waiting for the right time and then he dies. He dies. This is the words. He dies of a heart attack during masturbation.
Yeah.
For pre-insemination.
Yeah, and it's just
which is an insane sentence.
Well, there's a lot of insane sentences in this film.
God, that's tame by comparison.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, well, I'll get into that.
So I guess the idea of people dumbing down over the time is just this weird concept.
I think it's that weird thing where it's they point out oh, look at these poor dumb people having kids. They're so dumb and they're poor hillbillies. And I was like, this is really weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, honestly, I'd rather they have the kids than the rich assholes.
Yeah, I was like, because even I was thinking of it, I'm like, what does a better job of this? And I think I like Wall-E, of the idea, not stupid people, but maybe lazy people that have kind of given up on how we see life.
Yes.
And I think of this and it's just someone's just this sounds funny. Imagine if intelligent people are so smart they stop having kids, and then all the dumb people have kids. So all their kids are going to be stupid.
Well, yeah, this
okay.
This is a college frat film where they were we have a kind of funny idea. Let's make a film out of it.
It's but like I've already said, it's very much of the times. It's whoever's written this is this is a stupid idea. Let's run with it.
Yeah,
where I feel and
then they somehow get a bunch of actually pretty big movie stars to be in it. And you're how did you convince them?
Because this is when I even look at it, because there's no real big names in this film. We talk about the Wilsons, they're never they're never huge people, comparatively, right? And even Rudolph, she comes I would say a bigger star. But even Terry Crews, you can maybe argue, but he's even he's not a huge movie star.
This is pre anything.
Yeah.
He was maybe in White Chicks before this.
Yeah, he was funny in that. But
I'm trying to think this may even be pre that. So I really don't.
So
know.
it's a
Training
weird,
Day,
So there's no big
venue.
name in this really.
Yeah.
So it's kind of but there's funny. He's Justin Long's even in it. He's
Yes,
the
he
doctor
was.
in it.
Yeah.
And I was
that was out of the, and God. Okay,
I remember,
okay.
and even
We
that
have
was
to-
so.
We have to get to the point. This film is of its era in the sense that wow, there are a lot of words that like N-word drop in the first, I think, 7 to 10 minutes.
Yep.
So the Doctor's obsessed with being a pimp and becomes a pimp. And then when he puts them under and he calls them the N-word.
He just walks in. It's out of context. He just walks and goes, "What's up?" Yeah. And that's it. Doesn't say anything. No one mentions, no one comments on it.
Yeah. As soon as he said it, I'm like, oh shit, this is not as going to be as what I remembered it. Because I'm like, I don't remember that shit at all.
Yeah. And then like, so they drop the F-bomb all the time.
So that's just the word they drop all the time.
A lot of homosexual kind of slurs in this. He goes to the future, and because he talks quite affluently, which he
more than he just speaks
normally. It's supposed to be like speak to normally.
I kind of think this is why this film is genuinely insufferable, is because every person in the future is genuinely unlikable. Yeah. There is no redeeming qualities of any character in the future. And the premise of the film is he's trying to save them. Like he's like, the unwilling hero. He wants to go find a time machine that ends up being
a ride,
a roller coaster ride. And they're all so stupid they don't tell him.
Yeah.
But like the premise is then like, oh, I have to save here. And like, to get a pardon and be freed from prison and go to this time machine, I have to save them by like growing crops, because that's the big thing at the moment. Like it's a big dust bowl. There's no food because everyone thinks water is just for the toilet. Yeah. Because like this Gatorade company bought
everything.
All the rights.
It bought like all the. I hate this. It's like they bought the American companies that like put out the food standards, and so they're like, well, if the American companies are gone, that means the whole world's screwed up. And it's like, other countries exist other than America. But yeah, then they kind of do that thing where it's like, oh, so they're gone, and then so it's replaced. But then I'm like, I don't really care if these people do die. They all suck. They're all assholes. Yeah. Every time he says, "Oh, hey, how you going?" they all just drop the F-bomb and be like, "You're such a sissy, pussy," like like F over. I'm like, oh wow, these people are insane. I hate these people. They're just bad. It's bad people.
Because it's insane to like to sell it from this angle, right? Because it's not like. It doesn't like show them like struggling. They're all just like assholes because they literally all they want sex, money, and like fart jokes. Yeah. That's like all of them described.
And violence as well. Yeah. They don't get violence.
So they're literally because the one like there's a few ideas I like in the film, but they don't do it well at all.
No.
Like the whole idea that they're all run by entertainment. So entertainment like rules everything essentially.
Yeah.
They don't care if you're like smart or got a good idea. It's like, is it entertaining?
Yeah. But also the other thing as well, it's kind of this weird thing where you're like. Because like even the company of the Gatorade thing is like, it's kind of like there was a period where people were smart and the whole world has been stuck at that point. Because like the Gatorade company, they bring water back to the crops and that puts the stocks to zero of the Gatorade company, and 70% of the population is hired by this Gatorade company. Where it's like, what are they even doing? They're all stupid. Yeah. Like they literally can't do anything. What can they do? Nothing happens. But then. Like then the CEO is calling and I'm like, oh, is he going to like be kind of smart? And maybe he's the one controlling? Nope. He's like, oh yeah, all the stocks went to zero. Why did that happen? It just did the auto layoff thing.
Yeah.
Like, so apparently it's automatic
everything's automated.
Yeah. And
they don't really work. They're kind of just there to like interface with it essentially.
Yeah. Even like when he brings the water back, I'm like, how is no one here is smart enough, including not Joe, because in the future he accidentally sets his name to Not Sure. So for the whole film they're calling him Not Sure.
There's so many scenes where they're just like, oh, this will be, it'd be great. He's trying to get his name. I can see them all talking about, oh, he's getting his sting. They're going to like work out his name. And he's like, fucks it up. And he's like, oh, no, that's not what I meant. Okay, not. It's like, oh, are you sure about that? Yeah. No, sure. That's not it.
No. My name is Not Sure. Wait, no.
And it's just like, it's just all of the error, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't age well at all. Because that's why, like, we were talking about it before. Because even before when I thought about this movie, because I'm like, oh, it makes sense. Because a lot of people talk about it for like this age of politics where it's like, oh, it's just like stupid people running. Yeah. Which I can see, but it's like, this is like a whole other level of like, being terrible. Yeah. But they're just like ignorant to everything, essentially.
Yeah. Honestly, it's annoying.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, I genuinely, when it's like, oh, we're going to say the food ball, I'm like, don't. Let them die. These people suck. They suck.
And I had this question throughout the movie as well. if you're saying that all these people in the future are so stupid, who made the cars that you drove, who made the TVs that you are using,
I know.
like he made all the system that you use in the hospital.
Well, that's what I mean. It's all automated to a certain point. I'm assuming that's like the thing, right? Because even when they go to the doctor and he's like trying to get, and he's like got to put in the stupid thing. He's like, oh, which one was in your butt? Oh, you don't want to put that in your mouth. I was like, okay, that's written by a 5-year-old. And then when he actually sees Justin Long, who's the doctor, and then he's like, oh, you don't have a thing to scan. And he's like, oh, you just like, oh, press these buttons and then pay. He's like, oh, you don't have the scan thing. And it's just like,
he starts freaking out. Yeah. What's going on? Also, I think that's another thing as well. Why everybody just sucks. It's like, oh, everyone's dumb, so everyone's mean. He's standing there at the doctor thing. The doctor's messing up the needles. And like, literally, he walks up. The doctor goes, so put this one in your mouth, put this one in your butt. And then it pans back to him. And it's just some audio in the background. Somebody being like, hurry up.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone just, I think for the plot of the film, everybody hates him. Like, everybody hates Joe.
because he's meant to be like the nerd, right? That's like the idea, even though he's like what we would understand it. I think that was meant to be the joke. It's like, oh, imagine if an average person is just seen as a smart nerd person.
Yeah, it's like water grows things, and that's a genius idea.
Because like the 90s and early 2000s was a big thing. It's like, oh, look at the funny nerd, right? It's like, I feel like someone's like, oh, what if we like twisted that on the head? And it's just like the normal person's the nerd now. That's what I feel like they were thinking about. And it's just like, it doesn't pay off because they're all like assholes, right? Yeah. It's not like there's an overlying, thread to it.
They all just suck. And that's it. But that's even like then he's not talking to anyone. He's not saying it. It's just a doctor, and they're all going, hurry up, and it's like. This is just annoying. This is just people who suck, and I just don't care about it. This is dumb.
Like you don't care about this society to save it.
Because even when they get out, it's literally they've got a pile of garbage. It's like what do you call it? Like the avalanche.
Yeah, the great avalanche.
It's
like
garbage
avalanche.
Well, because he says like, oh god, more narration. He's like, the great avalanche is what's set in motion, and then the great avalanche smashes one guy's window.
One guy's thing. It wasn't
and it's like, oh, okay. Also, this is era of its time. I blame less for this. God, the CGI sucks.
Well, it's very much of the time, but it's so stupid.
Yeah, the flamethrower effect at the very end where he's like just dangling from a rope and like the bottom like 1/10 of the screen has some fire and you're like, wow, this is bad.
I think it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? But they don't really put that much thought into it. I was going to say,
I think the only thing I found funny is when the character, Rudolph's character, when she's a prostitute, and the first guy, she's like comes up, she's like, I'll pay you for sex. He's like, hey, why don't you just wait a day? He's like, oh yeah, baby, I'll wait.
Yeah, I'll wait 2 days.
Yeah, I'll wait 2 days. I just thought, I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. Then she's like, hey, you're still on the clock though. He's like, yeah, I am. And I like the idea that she never pays out, but he just keeps giving her money.
Yep.
But like, there was no smart jokes like that of being like.
The funniest thing in this film intentionally was her Rudolph character at the very start. Where like she's getting their thing and she's like, with tubes and shit. It's like just the way she says shit, where it's like shit. And I'm like, that was funny. Nothing else is good. There's no other intentionally funny thing in this whole film. It's a bunch of stuff that is like, I think I laughed at like awkwardness at one point. Thankfully, I watched this quite late. No one else was up and around because I was like, if anybody I knew saw me watching this,
they will never want to talk to me ever again.
Well, and like walked in the scene with like the doctor who just like he drops the F-bomb like 15 times in the span of like a minute. And you're like, wow.
Because it's like very much of like, we just say this thing because it's funny. Yeah. It wasn't like much in line with anything. It's just like, here's a funny thing, put it in.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was like improv kind of stuff.
Maybe.
Where there was like, here's a vague, just get this line across and then one of those early 2000s films where it's just improv everything.
It's just, I don't know. Because that's why it's so funny when we people talk about and use this reference a lot. Because I think they talk about Macho a lot as the president. That's like the big, where they like refer to him.
Yeah.
But even like remembering it, going back, I was like, I didn't remember it as this. He's just like a dude that's entertaining and that's why they voted for him, right? Yeah. He's the most famous porn star wrestler or whatever. And that's why he's the president. It might make sense in this stupid world.
I think I wrote like 3 or 4 times in my notebook, Terry Crews, you are so much better than this.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel bad. Out of everybody here, I'm like, I know you didn't want to do this, man.
Well...
I'm pretty sure he did.
If you go into his story a bit, he was very much willing to do what he needed to get into acting. He is better than that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are. A lot of the people in this. That's what's funny.
I was like, oh, God.
But it's very much of the time. We've watched like a lot of older movies that like... Because we watched... what was the Ryan Reynolds movie?
Just Wait.
Just Waiting. Yeah, and it only had like 1 or 2 of those moments where they said like the F word. I'm like, okay, that's a bit of the time. But in this is older. And they literally just lay into it. I'm like, okay.
I watched this and I was like, I think this would be controversial even for that time.
Mate, I can't even remember.
The amount of times they say it.
I would have been... What was it, 06? So I would have been like 14 or 15. I don't even remember this film only for like later where people use it as memes or refer to it as like, oh, he's just like our president because he's just a stupid guy that people like or whatever. And it's just like, it doesn't even really reflect on that much really.
Yeah.
Like I thought, oh, there might be some like deeper layers to what they're saying. There isn't.
No.
There is not. They're not saying anything with
Expecting
this.
anything deep from this film is like expecting... it's like jumping into a puddle expecting to go to the bottom, you know? Or like...
You mean going for a swim in a puddle when you're not getting any further in.
Yeah. I genuinely, like, there's a joke in this where... I think this is what I really hated about the narration. They'd be halfway through... Like, so like Terry Crews' character would be like making some speech. I think I wrote this down. This film loves to start showing and then start telling. Yeah. You know, it's the classic thing of like, oh, show, don't tell. This film almost starts showing and then it'll just like cut off. Like Terry Crews will start making this speech about like, oh, I promise that like, you know, Not Sure's going to fix this.
He's going to fix this.
And he does like 3 or 4 and then the narration goes, and then Terry started to go on and promise more things. And it's like, the scene was already happening. You're not using the narration to set up the scene. You're using the narration to end it because you're like, I can't think of how to end this.
And we already knew where it was going.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't like we didn't understand what he was doing.
This film, I feel like treats you like you're as dumb as the people in the film. Even like there's a joke where, and this is when the narration happens, so I bring it up. He goes to a cinema and it's like, oh, everyone here is so dumb that like, the most popular film, the number one film is a film called Just Ass, and it's a 90-minute film where it's at someone's ass, and like it's a full frontal ass. I was like, wow, that's an ass.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad ass. It looked all right. I was like,
just it's a very average ass. Just a normal looking ass. But it's just like, you know, farting every like 2 or 3 minutes. And I was genuinely like, this, I would rather watch that than this film.
Probably would get more enjoyment out of it.
Because it was black and white. I was like, I could convince myself this is artistic and auteur. I can't convince myself that I'm not wasting my life watching Idiocracy.
It's very much of that time though, of like, oh, this is just like all we're saying, all the stupid shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like none of it lands. Because that's what there's like a couple of ideas I liked and thought could have been thought out or used.
Costco was terrifying.
Yes.
I saw that and was like,
even that could have been a cool idea for a film being stuck in like a giant Costco or something.
Because it's like, oh,
that could have been a cool horror movie or something where it's like, oh shit, how do we get out? We've got our items and we can't buy them, and there's like a mystical Costco creature trying to get us or something.
That affected me the most of the film because I saw that and I had an existential dread. I was like, oh, that scares me. I was like, that could be real and that freaks me out. And they were like, oh yeah, it's going to take us 3. They get to Costco and it's like, all right, it's going to take us like 2 or 3 days to get to the time machine. It's still in Costco. And it's this weird decrepit city. And I was like, I would love if the whole film was based here.
Yeah. Great. Because I think that's a problem with this film. They have like interesting ideas, but they're just like, that's as far as they went. It's like, oh, what about if intelligent people didn't have kids anymore? It's like, oh, then all the stupid people just fucking have kids. All right, that's the end of it. What happens if like all, you know, like
Costco took over everything?
Yeah, what happens if Costco
do bought everything?
Even the idea of like, companies own everything. Companies run everything. Yeah. They control everything. That could have been an interesting idea. Or even the idea of like humans don't interact with the world that much. It is automated.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really delve into anything.
Even that little thing, like one joke that I was like, it's not funny because the line delivery sucks and because the film sucks. But it was
there's a lot of bad line delivery.
God, you can tell no one cares. You can tell everyone's like, because this is a genuinely funny line that I think everyone just get. By this point, everybody realized the film sucked, so they gave up. Where he's like, oh, like, you know, there's that one guy in the White House who's like, oh, you're so smart, brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Yeah, Carl's Jr.
And I was like, that's actually funny. Like, that's a funny concept.
And that like lines up with the world as well, right? It's like the idea that they're all run by companies and he's just like, I'm saying, I get paid when I say this all the time.
Yeah,
like,
but that guy's whole character, and again, you could tell he was giving up. He literally just sits there and goes, Carl's Jr. That's his whole thing. He just, Carl's Jr. You suck. You're smart. You're an F word. You suck. You're an idiot.
Say something smart. Say something smart.
Do something smart.
Do something smart.
And I think they also made jokes about the people who run the office as well. So besides the president, you have the minister of education, who is his brother
or whatever.
And then the Attorney General is a lady. You know.
Well, they make a lot of sex jokes. They're literally like.
There are 2 women in this film. Majorly, one's a sex worker. One's is there for looks, and it literally says nothing.
Yeah. Well, they don't even like delve into it. That's what I mean. They have like interesting ideas, but they never delve into it. But even then, like he's the mate that he runs into, the lawyer, and Evie's like, oh yeah, everyone goes to the White House and gets like babes and chicks. And then even when he's like talking about, it's like, oh, I've got this chick. I'm like, oh, I'm just, oh. I'm like, how's this funny? This isn't like clever or interesting.
So tasteless.
Yeah,
Stupid guy likes sex. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's
It's also-
the funny bit?
It tries to play the line where like Joe's like, no, stop it, that's not funny, but it's like,
He doesn't even really. He's just like,
well, because I'm like, you're putting this in the like, you can't do that where you're like you're trying to play. It's like, because obviously like that's the director, that's him being on the high horse, being like, oh no, this isn't funny, this isn't a good way to do it. But then it's like, but you're putting it in the film.
yeah.
And you're trying to get a laugh out of me with the film. So you can't then have a character being like, oh, actually, that's not funny. That's not okay. Because it's like, you think it's funny. That's
Yeah.
why it's in this film.
Yeah.
That's why this entire character, the whole film, has just been going, sex.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah,
you can't,
pretty much.
Yeah, you can't then be like,
fun, fart.
Yeah, yeah.
You think you're funny. You're like,
Yeah.
you know, you're the F word.
yeah.
Like
But
that.
then, at the same time, it's like, yeah, but actually, God, that's not funny. It's like, you've been doing this for we are like an hour and 20
the
minutes
whole
of this.
movie nothing's happened except for these jokes.
Yeah, so that's not true. You think this is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God. Because I don't know why when I thought we'll watch this, I'm like, I thought there was like a bit of nuance to this. There was nothing.
Nothing.
And I was so disappointed. When I finished this, I'm like, I didn't realize this was so
Are you okay
bad.
there? Just twisting down.
I'm just going to hold it.
It is so bad. It is not even a fun or funny film.
No.
Yeah.
It is so terrible. I couldn't believe it.
So I'm very surprised at why people brought this
Yeah.
back to become like this new cult classic.
Rat boy.
I literally just think people like, because everyone watches clips, so that's all they refer to, right? They're never like watching the film again.
Yes.
Because I feel like people are like, oh, remember this bit where, you know, the macho guy did this? And it's like, did you watch the rest of the film? Because
Yeah.
in like context, it's worse.
Mm.
It makes no sense.
The best part of this terrible film, which is still bad, is that section where because that whole like the first 25 minutes, 30 minutes
feel like
is
it's
so
longer.
useless. Nothing
Yeah,
happens.
I feel like 40 minutes. I don't know.
okay,
It's
yeah.
so much. It's so much
it's
of nothingness.
When he escapes prison and then gets captured again,
Again.
which
Yeah.
is like in the span of 15 minutes and nothing happens again.
Because he just meets up with the girl again.
Yeah,
And then finds the lawyer, and then they run away, and then nothing really
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
again.
So they finally get captured again, and then he like goes and does the IQ test. He goes to the White House. That is the part of the film like, okay, this is where a film is happening.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
when things are
Correct.
happening.
And then it's up until then, like he starts fixing it, and then the water happens.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I get the thing of like people being crazy, but then it's like a whole nother. It's back to the first thing where then it's like, oh, we're gonna put you in rehabilitation. It's the what was it? The Dickinator. The massive, just like
Yeah, the
shooting
big-
dildo,
yeah,
like
like
monster truck,
trucks.
and you're like, God.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah.
1 week of rehabilitation.
And it's like,
Yeah.
and one gets stuck because it's too big, and it like crumbles on it and
And
stuff.
it's like, oh, maybe it was too big, but like you can even see, of course, there's a big penis thing on it as it's
Yeah.
driving out, and you're like, oh God.
Because even like when they put him in the truck and he like they don't realize they unchain him from the rock, so
rock.
they just put it in the car, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
and it's just like
Yeah,
all
and
these.
someone's like,
stingers.
oh,
got no idea.
and you're so smart. Look, we're smart. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, God. Also, for a second, actually, do you know that guy who's like on a bunch of like, he's like that baby don't hurt me with a
No
really
more.
strong jawline. He's like really big and buff or something. He's all into. I swear to God, he's in this film. One of those like rehabilitation officers
yeah.
who's like
Okay.
very tall. He's got like
Yeah.
long brown hair. I'm like, is that him?
Yeah.
Probably was.
I think it might. I'm not. I didn't check, but I might Google it later. I genuinely think it's him. And if the one film he's in is
The worst movie of all
Idiocracy,
time.
that's
One of the worst.
hilarious.
If there's anything I would say about this film, I wish people would stop trying to use this as reference for like our politics or even just like anything. Because I'm like, once you watch the whole film, it's like it doesn't say anything.
It is that. I mean, to be fair, I get why people watch on TikTok because you can get the whole film in that one scene. In like a 2-minute thing, you get the whole synopsis.
Yeah, that's what
And-
I mean. You could literally explain it with like 2 sentences.
Yeah,
that's
and if
the
you
whole-
look at just that part, just that little synopsis, it looks like a much more, not intelligent, but a much better
interesting film,
Yeah,
yeah,
more interesting,
where it's
yeah.
not at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
90% of the film is not.
It
that.
is just like
Yeah.
bad jokes.
Well, it's just because in that thing, I think they're like, oh my God, you're so smart. Like, what can you do? And it's like they're open to it. And I'm like, oh, these people seem dumb, but likable.
To want to do something better, right?
Yeah, and then the other 90% of the film is just them being like, F word, F word, F word, F word, F word, F word. Yeah.
Our.
Sex.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I like money.
yeah. Oh my God.
I like money.
Why do we come here? It was
The time machine's like $8 billion, and if you give me $10 billion, how much does that leave me?
Yeah,
with?
so at 20 billion minus 10 billion, how much is that? 80 billion.
80 billion.
Oh, that makes sense.
I like money.
I like money.
Dak Shepard is such wasted in this movie as well.
Everybody's wasted.
They're all wasted. There's like, that's what I was like so sad. I'm like, oh, like some of these comedians and actors, they actually have some like talent. And it's just all wasted in this film. That's why I was like, I think it made me even more angry because I was like, oh, I feel like people talk this film up a bit. And it's they should not.
The
No one should watch this film.
The first one I ever watched was, I don't know if you guys ever saw Movie 47.
Yes.
Horrible.
Which one was that one?
So it's a
Horrible.
collection of shorter stories. This is where Hugh Jackman has a whole set of testicles under his chin.
Oh my God, I don't think I've ever watched it.
Yeah,
It's one of the, well, this is my theory for this film as well. It's like, because it's a film that literally a bunch of the actors came out and said, yeah, my contract was expiring. Because like a lot of these Hollywood actors are on like 3-4
for the
movie
studios,
deals. So it's like you have to do 3 or 4 films in a set amount of time. And so it's a bunch of actors who were contractual. It's like a bunch. It's like Emma Stone, Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I think
many
George Clooney was almost in it, but he was like, I'm not doing this. He was like, I would rather you sue me.
And he
than
has
be in
enough
this.
power as well to be
Yeah,
like,
I mean, he's one of the old movie stars where it's like he has sway.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I'm surprised Hugh Jackman would have done something.
No,
like
he
that.
was in that.
Oh my God.
yeah, I feel like Hugh Jackman kind of gets.
But he's like talking about people that like waste their talent, not waste their talent, but he's got the potential to be like great.
No.
Yeah, either way, but yeah,
Not in that movie.
There was like they just dumped him in this film that had a terrible script, and then this is one of those things where it's like you've put all these really good, funny people in just the worst film.
They're not the biggest names, but like
Yeah.
seen all of them do much better stuff, and it's just like
even
wasted.
in that
Yeah,
era, they
yeah.
were in a
Well,
bunch
that's
of-
what I even mean when we're talking about the Wilson brothers being in Wes Anderson films
Yes.
that are very thoughtful and great movies. And you look at this, and it's like
Why are you doing
it's crazy. Like writing and directing can mean so much to a film. Not what like. I think they're cool ideas, but never planned out and just like wasted.
Yeah.
I was so sad watching this film. I'm like, oh my God. I was
Oh,
like,
look what you're doing.
it's a good conversation now, but I mean like to like if you want to watch a film and enjoy it, don't watch this film.
Yeah, I specifically. I think I requested us to talk about this last,
Yeah.
and then I watched it in that order. So I watched Death of Stalin,
Yep.
Jojo Rabbit.
I think I did the
in
same
order,
as well,
But I
yeah.
was like, I need to put Idiocracy last. Going into Idiocracy after watching those two amazing films
exactly.
is like it's like.
It's like having a 3-course meal where
Yeah,
you've
at a
had a great
Michelin-star
entree,
restaurant.
you've had the great entree mains, and then dessert comes out and someone just shit on a plate for
No,
you.
legit. It's like you've gone to like the French vineyards and like dined with like chef.
Our head chef
Lamé.
chefed this out this morning for you. It's like,
yeah.
oh.
And then you've gone to England and gone to like the brilliant fusion or like and then you've come like back home and you've gotten a kebab that gives you salmonella. Like that's the
Damn.
the
it's just
mystery,
a
the
drop.
mystery meat that you don't know where it's
Oh,
from.
It's
Holy shit.
God, horrible.
I wish people, because when I was looking up political satire, this was there. And I'm like,
Yeah, it was there.
I literally thought, there must be something. There's nothing. Like, I would not say this is a political satire in the film at all. There's political stuff in it, but it's not saying anything. It's literally like they're stupid. They can't run a country.
Yeah.
He says use water, saves the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely think it's like, because I feel like it's in the same era as this film. It feels like they went, let's make American Pie, but try and make it smart.
It is of that era of like those kind of like stupid movies with just stupid jokes.
Yeah.
But nothing lands in this, I feel.
Yeah.
And even with time, it makes it worse. Like, I don't know if I would have watched this when it came out, if I would have thought it was funny. It was not, but I hope I wouldn't.
Oh, also, the funniest thing in the world, the audacity of this film to even say this. At the very end, he's giving that speech because he's been elected as president, and he's like, we lived at a time where people made movies that were good and not just not just someone's ass.
Yeah.
And I was like,
wow.
I was thinking to myself, I was like, if you think this is anything better than 90 minutes of ass, you are so above yourself. That is what this film is.
It was funny. That would be a perfect clip to be like, this film is worse than what he's explaining.
I'm kidding. He was like, we used to make good films. And I was like, oh, wow.
what about
this is,
this then?
Yeah, I was like, let's travel back to 2005 and say that about this film.
Yeah.
Because
Please not release this film.
Yeah, this made me. I know that there's films that come out after this that are better, and yet still in my head I'm like, I think this film has convinced me that cinema is dead already, and it died in 2005 when
This is
came
nearly
out.
20 years old.
And it killed.
killed
Again,
cinema.
I've seen Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo
and
Rabbit and Death of Stalin are
It
after
still
this.
convinced me. I'm like, maybe those films were bad. And I'm just maybe I don't know.
There was not one F word or N word said in those other films.
God. And they had Nazis in
They
them.
were Nazis and like bloody Stalin.
Yeah, somehow Jojo Rabbit, a film about the Nazi occupation and a kid who's a Nazi,
Was less racist.
offensive.
Less racist
Damn.
and offensive.
Than Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Also, all white male cast, classic, apart from Terry Crews.
And was
Maya.
Rudolph white? She had like a tan.
Sorry,
Yeah, she's got
even
a
there,
bit of a-
sorry, all white male cast, and then the two characters in
Yeah.
there are heavily related to sex.
Is that a good point to leave it on, maybe?
Hey, or if you want
Unless
to
we're
keep talking about
we can
it,
keep ranting if we want. I'm happy to keep ranting, but
I mean, there's. I mean, what notes do I have?
Is that have a quick look at your notes, see if there's anything else.
Yeah. Let's see. What did I
Please
write
don't
down?
watch this movie again.
I mentioned the shit, which is my favorite thing. I said voiceover, terrible CGI, all male cast,
Yeah.
screams to the 2000s.
Yep.
There's a store there that's just called Buttfuckers.
Yeah, all the stupid names, or
Yeah.
even like what was it? Bloody.
but all
What's
the
the coffee
opposites
shop?
as
What's the
well.
coffee shop?
A Starbucks.
Starbucks, but it's literally
hand
about
jobs.
sex.
It's a brothel.
They walk
It's a
up,
brothel.
like H&R Block, which I think is like a famous HR thing
Yeah,
over there,
yeah.
is also just a brothel. Everything's a brothel.
Yeah, everything's
a brothel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
think-
accountancy.
Yeah, I have five in a row notes where it's like dot points where I've just written down. Oh, they said the F bomb again.
Yeah, they said it again.
Just that's 5.
Once
in a
I
row.
heard it once, I'm like, they're not going to stop.
No. Yeah, 40 minutes in, there's still narration.
I'm honestly surprised they didn't say the N word again.
Oh my god, I thought they were going to.
I was literally like, they said it once right at the start. I'm expecting to hear it
Oh
again.
yeah, Fun Bags is a
Oh,
good term that popped up. Whore, that was dropped.
Yep.
which
That doesn't
is
even
cool.
seem. That seems like the least offensive thing they said in the whole film.
Yeah. I think I got something that just says, "What the f were people smoking?" when they
Yeah,
made
it's
this?"
literally of.
Yep.
There's nothing you can say about this film.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
just
sorry.
like-
Sorry. Dildozer and Ass Dozer. were
Okay.
the two.
Like those.
They're the trucks. They're the
Yeah.
trucks
The-
or the monster
The
trucks.
Yeah.
rehabilitators.
Oh yeah. Also, like when he like is driving the car and like he like flips out of the car by driving until the rock stops him, and I was like,
Yes.
his leg would be 7,000 layers of dislocated,
Yeah.
driving
Or-
like 60 kilometers
Or
an
it
hour.
would be ripped off.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be off of his socket.
Yep.
That's like that's a torture method. They get
Yeah.
horses to do that. What would a car do?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh my god. And then I feel really bad for Terry Crews.
Yeah.
Oh god, this pops up in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Watching this forced shit relationship is like drilling several
Yeah,
bolts into my eye
they
while
really-
someone makes fart jokes. Just in the last 20 minutes, like, these two are going to get together as well.
Well, they kind of hint at it a bit, but it's
Yeah.
even like she seems smarter than him because she
Yes.
keeps talking. He doesn't understand she was a prostitute at all.
Yes.
yeah.
Like,
Maybe
goes
in
over
the
his
film
head.
still. I don't know.
No, he doesn't.
As we're talking about notes, they missed a great moment at the end of the film, and they're just like, he's just a normal Joe. I'm like, you named him Joe. It's about average people. You could have said he was more than an average Joe. You set it up so well, and you missed it. I remember, I'm like, this is great. They could just say he's an average Joe. He's just a normal Joe.
And then they go,
I'm like,
that's the-
you could have hit something. Like, you could
and then
have.
they're like, no, not sure is funny.
Yeah.
Not sure.
And I'm like, bro, you actually set
It's
up
not
something.
even a funny mistake. It's not even not sure isn't
not.
even necessarily a funny word.
Yeah,
it's just
it's
it's
not.
2 words. Oh, his name's not. No one even comments on it
Yeah.
later on. No one's like, oh, that's a stupid name.
Yeah.
People just call him not sure.
Yeah.
Oh my god, how many people in this world are just called sex?
Yeah,
like,
probably.
I don't know. Oh god.
Anyway.
I think my final note, which I think encapsulates this film, I've just read down Nazi chaplain. And so they're going through the time machine. There's
Right.
and I was like, it's a link between Jojo Rabbit and a terrible joke.
Yeah,
But it's like, they're
God.
also dumb. They don't know what history is. Charlie Chaplin was a Nazi.
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin was Hitler.
That's what I was thinking. I'm just because he had the mustache, right? That's
Yeah.
a reference. The writing room, they're like, remember Chaplin had like
Chaplin
the
looks-
Nazi. He had the Nazi, Hitler mustache put
I
in.
literally saw, I'm not joking, a College Humor. That was the old YouTube channel.
Yeah.
A College Humor
Yeah.
skit that did that and better.
Yeah, probably.
And I'm like, you are
was
less
gonna say,
funny than College
if
Humor.
this movie did any jokes good, I'd be very surprised.
Shit. That's my shit.
And before we end this episode, I want to bring one question to Leon's expertise about PR. Now, let's say if you are the PR person for the President Camacho, President Not Sure, and even some of the secretaries from the Death of Stalin, how would you help them do the public relations campaigns?
I'm really glad you didn't ask me to write a script for Hitler.
Oh,
so
no,
thank you
no,
for
no,
that.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I don't think we're going to ever
dodge him.
go there. Yeah.
Oh, God. I mean, I feel like the Idiocracy one's hard because it's just, I mean,
Because it wouldn't matter
I think
really
it-
in that world.
well, actually, no, I will say the one speech that really actually pissed me off was the lawyer one, where he's like, Your Honor, he sucks. I was like, it feels like I'm arguing with a 12-year-old. I'm
Yeah.
going to hit him. Probably just say boobs 8 times, and in that world, apparently,
yeah,
they'd
that would
love
probably
you.
win.
Yeah,
Yeah, not too hard.
You wouldn't even say that. It's a Camacho likes boobs.
Ooh.
And he likes butt. Oh, hell yeah. I saw that movie.
Yeah. And he likes men. And then, that word would have been said 8 times in a
Yeah,
row.
exactly. Then they wouldn't have voted for him. Cause
Yeah, of course, because that's bad.
Yeah.
It's 2006, we don't care.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then you're going to be the smartest person in the world because you kind of know what people
Well,
like.
apparently,
as well.
apparently everybody's going to kill me for
Yeah,
it. So
exactly.
I'd rather be one of the dumb ones.
Just be oblivious to it all.
Yeah. I feel like the speeches that they write in the department are actually quite funny because I'm like, that's such a weird. Because that was one of the things that was kind of unsure is like how good was Stalin at giving speeches and how much of it was propaganda. And
Probably
I'm
a
like,
bit of both.
Yeah. I think what speech could I write that would keep me alive and not get me sent to the
Yeah.
gulag?
Yeah.
Stalin
Probably
is
just
great.
be like, Stalin's great. Russia's super cool.
We don't massacre our own people
Yep.
ever.
Yep. And if you think we do, come chat to me after.
Yeah.
Come, we can write down your name.
Yeah,
here.
like, just right.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
got this list. Just write your name here if you think
Yeah,
we're
there's a
bad.
black van over there.
Just enter in there.
Just
There's just a little cliff
Yeah.
over here. Just have a little look over there.
Yeah. Go, that black van has a little polling booth where you can give your opinion. Have fun.
Yeah. Wow.
It's reminding me of Futurama. Here's our voting booth.
Yeah.
If you press no, you mightn't come out.
Anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up this episode?
I think we've done a pretty good job. Honestly,
I
we've
think-
covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Ended on some anger, so that's
Yeah.
good.
I'm still angry, to be honest. I think that's going to be sitting with me.
Just
for-
get it out of you. Just get it out of you.
This was quite therapeutic. I think I think for my own sanity, I needed to talk about Idiocracy to somebody
Yes,
else. So
you need to vent it
you
out,
forced me into this horrible situation, but you've at least let me get out some of my
Yes,
anger.
yes.
Which is nice.
Well, thank you so much for watching the episode. I hope you guys enjoy the conversation. Leave a comment below, click a like, and until then, I'm Darren.
I'm Tim.
And this is Leon. Thank you so much for watching Movie Being Podcast.